Hello again, true crime fans. We've got another mysterious case to explore. The case of Nicole Pitts. Nicole Pitts was born in late February 1973 and grew up in King County. She attended Eastern Washington College. Every summer, her family traveled to Seattle and spent much of their time at Lake Samash. Nicole had a close relationship with her mother, Gail, and had a good relationship with her father, Rod. In the 1990s, while working at a fitness club, she met her future husband, David. Their relationship quickly developed into a romantic relationship. After spending some time together, they married in 2002 in Maui, Hawaii. In 2005, the couple bought a condominium in Linwood, Washington, a place where they could enjoy their time together. At that time, Linwood was a quiet town with a population of fewer than 40,000 people. It featured narrow streets and many bars and restaurants, similar to their previous home. The young family quickly fell in love with the area. Nicole was outgoing and made friends easily. Within days of moving in, she had made many new friends. She is an animal lover and often walks her dog around the neighborhood or relaxes at home with her 2 cats. She cares for them as if they were her own children. Nicole's career was going well. After finishing school, she worked at a fitness club for a while before becoming a corporate manager at a mobile phone company. She lived close to where she worked. Nicole was an important member of the team because she easily connected with her colleagues and helped them solve problems. However, she faced challenges from an early age. She was introduced to alcohol as a teenager and eventually became an alcoholic. This started when her parents divorced, which left her feeling lost. Her mother, a flight attendant, was often away on business trips, so Nicole was often left in the care of her elderly grandmother, which led to her hanging out with the wrong crowd. Fortunately, Nicole's parents noticed their daughter's issue early on, and with the support of her family, she was able to overcome her bad habit. They attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings together, where she received guidance, making her journey easier. However, her alcohol use had lasting effects, resulting in significant health problems. At age 21, Nicole was diagnosed with endometriosis and underwent 3 surgeries. Following these procedures, she was prescribed pain medication to control her chronic pain. By 2006, 32-year-old Nicole had been avoiding alcohol for 8 years. Despite this, she remained an active and valuable member of her Alcoholics Anonymous group. She attended every meeting, viewing them not just as a way to manage her own recovery, but also as an opportunity to support others in their struggles. Nicole understood the challenges of the fight against addiction. From a young age, she had a passion for cooking, which only grew stronger over time. She loved preparing a variety of dishes and often brought her homemade meals to work for her husband, David, who always appreciated her efforts. Nicole was very close to her mother and called her every day. In early 2006, she was excited about her upcoming 33rd birthday. However, just 2 days before her birthday, she unexpectedly missed an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in nearby Renton, surprising everyone. That night, David returned home late from work and went straight to bed, thinking Nicole would still be home. However, the next morning, he discovered that she had left, and he never saw her again. David tried calling Nicole to check on her, but she didn't answer his calls. He was worried that she might be upset because he hadn't spoken to her at dinner the night before and had gone to bed early from exhaustion. Despite his attempts to contact her, Nicole remained silent, which made him even more worried. He also contacted some of her friends and her mother, but no one had seen her. That evening, when David returned home and Nicole had not returned, he became alarmed. Worried, he decided to go to the sheriff's office, but was told that there was not enough time to classify her as missing. However, David convinced the police to investigate her whereabouts, as her behavior was very unusual, and he feared that something might have happened to her. Police arrived at David's home and discovered that, in addition to Nicole, Her 2003 Volkswagen Jetta was also missing. Nicole had left for work that morning, but was gone. Her mother became concerned about Nicole's disappearance, especially since she had not received any calls from her daughter all day, which worried her. After police confirmed that no one had seen Nicole since she went missing, they began searching for her that same day. The family of the Nicole booked flights to Washington, hoping for the best and wanting to assist in finding their daughter as quickly as possible. Everyone was confused because Nicole was known to be reliable and responsible. She would never have vanished or ignored calls. Even if she couldn't answer right away, she would have called back soon. As her silence continued, her parents and husband grew increasingly worried. Those involved in the search for Nicole sprang into action immediately. Nicole's mother and stepfather went straight to the police upon arriving in the city. Members of the Alcoholics Anonymous Club, who cared deeply for Nicole and wanted to support her family, also joined the search efforts. The club was significant to Nicole, as she never missed a meeting and was set to receive an award for 8 years of sobriety, which she took great pride in. There was no reason for her to leave or abandon everything. Nicole's voicemail was filled with calls from friends and family, but none of them had been able to reach her. Some were concerned that Nicole might have relapsed, despite successfully battling her addiction for years. The police were actively searching for her, searching the surrounding areas of Linwood, but they found nothing. Meanwhile, Nicole's parents took action by creating a website to gather information about Nicole. Many people responded to the family's call for help, but most of the messages were just well wishes, and the little information they received turned out to be false. The search seemed to stall until a new event changed the course of the investigation. On February 7, a local resident was jogging near a wooded area of San Francisco Park, near a small lake. He accidentally discovered a strange object under a raspberry bush. Curious, he approached and was horrified to discover the body of a girl. A nearby witness quickly called the police. The police arrived in time, and acquaintances recognized the body as Nicole's. Forensic experts later confirmed that there was no evidence of rape. After the autopsy in the laboratory, it was proven that the Nicole had received multiple injuries during the beating, but the cause of death was asphyxia. The Nicole had multiple blunt force injuries on her legs, torso, and head, indicating a brutal murder driven by personal hatred. This raised the question, who could have done this? Nicole had no known enemies. The case was changed from a disappearance to a murder investigation. The news of her death was devastating for David and parents. News of her death devastated David and her parents. Police began investigating her bank card transactions to trace her final movements. They discovered that her card was last used on January 30 in a nearby town where she had paid for gas. Police requested video footage from the gas station, suspecting that the killer may have made the purchase instead of Nicole and hoping to identify him in the footage. While police wait for surveillance camera footage, they continue to search for Nicole's car, as it may contain important information for the case. Police reviewed Nicole's identity and social connections, but still found no clues. Nicole was known as one of the friendliest members of her work group and club. She had no enemies. Instead, she was a devoted friend, a loving wife, a caring daughter, and a skilled employee who loved her pets. Nicole even turned her own struggle with alcohol into a positive by supporting others who were trying to get sober, setting an example for them. While the police were searching for the car, her relatives and friends shared information about the missing car and Nicole's situation. They publicly appealed for help, urging people to be aware of the car and avoid touching it. Flyers were distributed that stressed the importance of calling the police immediately if the car was discovered, as the car was linked to Nicole's murder. This prompted local residents to pay attention to Nicole's car. On February 21, 2006, her car was discovered parked near the university. Police quickly seized the car for forensic analysis, hoping to gather evidence to arrest the perpetrator and piece together the events surrounding the tragedy. Inside the car, they discovered a large amount of trash and various items, including books and sports equipment. Police discovered that after Nicole went missing, someone had used her ID and credit cards. Police are investigating the possibility that Nicole's car may have broken down on the way, and she was picked up by a stranger and harmed, and the location of her car was unusual because Nicole was supposed to be traveling to another city. The position of the car seat suggested that it had been driven by someone much larger and taller than her. In the lab, experts meticulously measured the seat position to gather clues about a potential suspect. They found DNA evidence inside the car, including hair and a single fingerprint. Police collected DNA and checked. Several patrol officers searched the area where the car was found. They asked anyone nearby if they had seen Nicole's car or who had parked it, but this did not yield any useful information. The police discovered that the car had been parked in the lot since February 10, as an illegal parking ticket from that date was stuck to the windshield. Unfortunately, there were no surveillance cameras available to assist in the investigation. Forensic tests showed that all traces of DNA in her car belonged to Nicole and David. The investigation yielded no new information to solve the case. By early April, there had been no progress. Nicole's parents had offered a $10,000 reward for any information that could lead to the arrest of the perpetrator. During this time, Nicole's mother, Gail, made frequent appearances on various television channels to raise awareness of the case. After a while, Nicole's family had to return to Arizona to work, but they kept in touch with the police who were handling the investigation. Nicole's father, Rod, was heartbroken and frustrated that the investigation was taking so long. Despite their efforts, the investigation continued without any breakthroughs. In September, the case was handed over to an experienced police officer. The new police quickly requested a search warrant for the house of the Nicole, which had not been done before. He aimed to find clues among her belongings, particularly on Nicole's computer. Unfortunately, the house revealed no signs of a crime, no blood or other evidence. The computer also yielded no useful information. Police continued to interview witnesses and acquaintances of Nicole. One of them was Barbara, a friend who had met Nicole at an Alcoholics Anonymous club. They had planned to meet at a coffee shop the evening Nicole went missing, but she never showed up. At first, Barbara thought Nicole was just running late. Then Barbara tried calling Nicole several times that day, but Nicole did not answer any of her calls. During this time, the police still had no clues to the case. Meanwhile, Nicole's parents, Rob and Gail, were at their home in Arizona. Their grief did not subside for a year. Feeling desperate, they decided to hire a private investigator because they were puzzled by the inconsistencies in the case. Nicole had left the house without her wedding ring, which was very unusual for someone who was so proud of her marriage and who would never willingly remove such a meaningful symbol. A private investigator began his investigation, but no leads were found. Nicole's family then increased the reward for information about the criminal to $25,000. Organizations focused on fighting crime and finding missing persons contributed an additional $1,000. The community remained tense, knowing that a dangerous criminal was still at large, the perpetrator seemingly without a motive, suggesting that he could be a madman ready to strike at any time. The police then requested a search warrant for Nicole's computer, believing it might contain clues about the criminal. In October 2009, the private investigator hired by Nicole's parents was charged with fraud. He falsely claimed to have found evidence in the case, but said he needed money to handle it. Her parents gave him more money, but then the private investigator disappeared and took on another case. As a result, his license was revoked. Nicole's parents no longer have a private investigator and no leads on the identity of the killer. In 2011, 5 years after Nicole's death, the investigation was still ongoing, but no significant updates were made. On March 21, 2012, the final suspect was arrested and revealed to be Nicole's husband, David. By this time, police had enough evidence against him. He was held in custody with bail set at $1 million. The prosecutor noted that the case had progressed significantly due to new technologies that were previously unavailable, especially in the field of forensic science. Police found that David's account of the night before Nicole's disappearance did not seem convincing. Additionally, police noted that only David and Nicole's DNA and fingerprints were found in her car. If strangers had been in the car, their fingerprints would still be there because they had not been erased. If the criminal had tried to erase the fingerprints, there would have been no fingerprints left. The driver's seat was adjusted to fit David's size, and surveillance footage from a gas station captured a person resembling him. After Nicole went missing, he used her cell phone to make multiple calls from various locations around the city. Police believed he was trying to throw the investigation off track. However, modern tracking technology allowed them to pinpoint the exact location of the calls, proving that Nicole could not have been there at the time because she was dead. Notably, both Nicole's and her husband's phones worked in the same areas. Strangulation, the method of murder, usually indicates a personal connection between the killer and the victim. Evidence found at the crime scene indicated that the killer was someone close to Nicole. This is consistent with the fact that she was not sexually assaulted. The medical examiner determined Nicole's time of death. It was found that she was killed at night or early in the morning while still in bed. Her limbs were clean, with no signs of struggle. Forensic experts determined the time of death by examining Nicole's stomach contents. They found that the food Nicole had eaten the night before was still undigested, suggesting that she had been murdered before she got up to go to work the next morning. Although they appeared to be a loving couple, it was clear that this was just a cover, and there were multiple reasons behind the crime. At the time, the family was facing serious financial difficulties. David is quite the party animal. He enjoys drinking and smoking marijuana, which puts a dent in the family budget. Nicole spent a lot of time and effort dealing with her addiction and had been trying to stay sober for years. David was jealous of his wife's strength. He also had affairs, and during the investigation, it was discovered that he had had at least 4 affairs. His lifestyle meant that he often pressured his wife into having sex. He even tried to drug her at a club to convince her, but she refused. This made him angry. He often met women at clubs, which led to sexual encounters. Just days after Nicole went missing, he began seeking new relationships. By the time he was arrested, David had remarried and had a child. This was especially painful for Nicole's parents, as their daughter had always wanted children, but David had no interest in that. Furthermore, David quickly began collecting documents to claim Nicole's life insurance. After gathering all the information, David was called in for questioning. At the police station, he denied any involvement in the murder. When asked to take a lie detector test, he agreed, but the results showed that he had lied. He was eventually arrested and charged with murder, but David firmly denied any involvement in the crime. The trial started in September 2013, 7 years after Nicole passed away. Her family and friends gathered in the courthouse, hoping for justice. The defense lawyer for the David argued that Nicole's death was linked to her relapsed alcohol addiction and possibly a new addiction to prescription drugs. He pointed to an empty pill bottle found during a search of the bathroom as evidence of this. And the defense insisted that all the evidence against David was circumstantial and that the case was based on speculation. Nicole's parents testified in court that David did not participate in the search efforts, did not help distribute flyers, and only pretended to be upset. Nicole's mother explained that the medication in question was a prescription painkiller prescribed to her daughter to treat severe abdominal pain caused by her endometriosis, which had significantly improved her condition. Prosecutors were unable to prove intentional conduct, so David Pitts was charged with second-degree murder. David was sentenced to 18 years and 4 months in prison, the maximum sentence under state law. Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Suzanne Morphew. Suzanne Morphew was born on April 11, 1971, to Jean and Adrian Alexandria. She grew up with two brothers, David and Andrew. Those close to her knew she was a special friend, known for her intelligence and thoughtfulness. In 1998, while still in high school, Suzanne met Barry Morphew. After 6 years of dating, they got married. Barry initially pursued a baseball career, signing with the Toronto Blue Jays, while Suzanne pursued a degree in education at Purdue University. However, after a severe injury cut his sports career short, Barry transitioned into horticulture. Suzanne had 4 years of teaching experience when Barry started his own business, and the company gradually grew over time. The couple had 2 children, Mallory and Macy. They led an idyllic life in Indiana but faced a setback when Suzanne was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Despite this challenge, Suzanne successfully battled cancer twice. The family eventually moved to Mayville, Colorado, in 2018 in search of a fresh start and to be near their daughter Mallory, who was attending Western State University. The Suzanne moved to a beautiful 7-acre property that allowed Barry to pursue his love of hunting. He continued working as a contractor and also became a volunteer fireman. Suzanne, on the other hand, retired from her teaching career and devoted more time to her church and a new hobby, sports mountain biking. To outsiders, the Suzannes seemed like the perfect family. However, but they had their share of problems. These issues were finally revealed on May 10, 2020. Monday, May 10, 2020, was unlike any other Mother's Day celebration at Suzanne's house. While Suzanne was home alone, her husband Barry and their daughters were out. Barry claimed he had a landscaping appointment in Broomfield, about a 3-hour drive from home, and their children went on a camping trip. They all planned to return home in the evening to celebrate Suzanne's special day. However, when Mallory and Macy messaged their mother to wish her happy Mother's Day, they didn't receive a response. This was unusual because Suzanne was very active on social media. The girls expected her to be checking her phone for updates, especially since a friend's daughter's wedding was taking place and Suzanne would likely want to see photos. After waiting a few hours without hearing back, the girls grew concerned. They asked their neighbor, Martin Ritter, and his wife for help. Around 4 o'clock or 4:30 p.m. that day, Mrs. Ritter visited the Suzanne house and found it empty. She called Barry to explain the situation and he instructed her to look for Suzanne's mountain bike. If the bike was missing, he told her to contact the police. That's exactly what she did, and soon the police arrived at the Suzanne residence. Barry and their daughters returned home, they anxious to know news of Suzanne's whereabouts. A few hours into the search, the police found a crucial clue. Deputies discovered Suzanne's mountain bike in a steep ravine near the home. The location hinted that Suzanne might have been involved in an accident, but the bike and the surrounding area showed no signs of a struggle. Notably, there were no skid marks from the brakes, no damage to the bike despite its fall down the ravine, no bloodstains, and the nearby lawn appeared untouched. This evidence led the deputies to conclude that the bike had been deliberately placed in the ravine. When they shared this information with Barry, his reaction was unusual. As the investigation into his wife's disappearance proceeded, Barry shared many more implausible stories. As the investigation progressed, his behavior made it obvious that he didn't truly care for his wife. This led to unanswered questions and speculation about Suzanne's disappearance, leading many to suspect Barry's involvement. Barry gave details about his mountain lion story in a secretly recorded conversation with YouTuber Tyson Draper. Notably, Barry was absent from the search parties for Suzanne, organized by her brother Andrew. Andrew doubts Barry's story and offers another possibility: Suzanne actually went missing on May 9th, not on Mother's Day as Barry claimed. It was also discovered that Suzanne's helmet was found 1 mile from their home, in the same direction Barry's truck had traveled that morning. Investigators initially considered this an odd coincidence, but it became more significant when they discovered it was in the opposite direction of the construction site he was set to visit that day. In his initial interview, Barry said he woke up at 4:30 a.m. to an alarm clock and immediately left for Broomfield. However, telematic data from his Ford truck showed he drove 1 mile west before heading to the construction site. When confronted with this data, Barry explained that he was scouting elk earlier that morning. He then anesthetized them and sold their antlers, which was his habit. However, the officers pointed out a flaw in Barry's story. He couldn't have spotted the elk at 4:30 a.m. if he was just waking up. To address this, Barry changed his story, saying he didn't set his alarm for 4:30 a.m. and got up on his own. When asked about the day of Suzanne's disappearance, Barry described it as one of the best days they had had after a long time. He said that morning, he worked briefly with a coworker in Salida and then returned home early. After that, he went on a hike with Suzanne, followed by a grilled steak dinner and intimacy. Barry stated they went to bed together. However, it is essential to note that Barry is not a reliable source of information. During the police investigation into Barry, it was discovered that he had lied about the whole thing that happened that night. The first signs of deception were uncovered by investigators on May 9, 2020, when they reviewed the telematic data from Barry's vehicle and his phone records. Although Barry had indeed spent the afternoon and evening with Suzanne, the details did not match his initial story. One of the discrepancies occurred between 10:42 and 10:47. According to his phone data, Barry's movements around the property were unusual. When questioned by investigators about this inconsistency, Barry claimed he was probably hunting chipmunks with tranquilizers at the time. It was also revealed that Barry had switched his phone to airplane mode at 2:47 p.m. and left it in that mode until 10:17 p.m., which further raised suspicions. Additionally, investigators found evidence that contradicted Barry's claim of having a steak dinner with his wife. They discovered only one dirty dish, suggesting that Barry had eaten alone. As the investigation continued, more unusual occurrences were discovered on their plot of land. The police found additional suspicious details while reviewing the data from later that night. 1 hour after Barry claimed to have gone to sleep with his wife at 8:30 p.m., his car was seen backing up 96 feet from the driveway at 9:30 p.m. This led investigators to speculate that this could be when Barry loaded his wife's body into the truck. If he was indeed guilty. Furthermore, the records showed that between 3:25 and 3:48, the truck door opened and closed over 80 times, which, although indirect, suggested that Barry might be hiding something from the police, causing them must dig deeper into the incident that occurred on May 10th. Investigations involving Barry co-workers revealed that he had no reason to be in Broomfield on the day in question. The contract didn't start until a week later, so there was no project to inspect. Barry initially claimed that his only activities that day involved visiting the Holiday Inn, the work site for an upcoming project, a store for granola and water, and a stop at McDonald's to clean his windshield. However, surveillance footage obtained by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation contradicted his story. The footage showed that Barry disposed of 5 trash bags near the Holiday Inn and McDonald's. This increases suspicion about his actions. When police questioned Barry about the footage of him disposing of trash bags large, he gave an unusual explanation. He claimed that he wanted to avoid paying for disposal fees so he could clean his car. However, his story fell apart when officers searched his vehicle. Barry's suspicious behavior was further highlighted by a coworker who reported a strong smell of bleach and chlorine in his hotel room a day after Suzanne disappeared. In addition, investigators found that Barry had changed his clothes multiple times throughout that day. Investigators then delved deeper into Barry and Suzanne's personal lives. Their daughter revealed that her parents' marriage was not as happy as Barry had initially suggested. Text messages on Suzanne's phone confirmed this. Suzanne was deeply unhappy in the marriage and discussed her desire for a divorce, which Barry refused. Suzanne kept a list of grievances in her Notes app, detailing a pattern of physical abuse by her husband Barry. She expressed fear of being alone with him and was concerned about his heavy drinking and attempts to take her phone. Suzanne also suspected him of being unfaithful. In an attempt to catch him in the act, she purchased a pen with a hidden recording device, but it ironically captured evidence of her own affair instead. The investigation revealed that Suzanne had been having an affair with a man named Jeff, a high school acquaintance, for about a year and a half, starting in 2018. Although Jeff initially appeared to be a potential suspect, he was later cleared of any involvement in Suzanne's disappearance. However, investigators discovered a note that suggested Barry had found out about the affair and might have accused her of having a boyfriend just 2 days before she went missing. During their search of the Suzanne house, police uncovered several crucial pieces of evidence, including the cap of a tranquilizer dart in the dryer and the spent bullet casing in the bedroom. They also found a large crack in the doorframe and a charred remnant of Suzanne's journal in the fireplace. These findings, combined with telematic data, suggested that Barry might have planned killed Suzanne on May 9, 2020. Phone records from Suzanne's phone supported her initial story. After texting Jeff 53 times and sending a selfie at approximately 2:10 p.m., the phone showed no further activity. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that the public discovered Barry was a suspect in his wife's disappearance. This revelation came when police excavated a construction site in Salida, one of Barry's job sites, over the course of 2 days. In response, Barry released a video to the public maintaining his innocence. It was not until May 5, 2021, nearly a year into the investigation, that Barry was arrested. While the evidence against him was largely circumstantial, the prosecution felt confident in their case. Due to the inconsistencies in Barry's alibis, his repeated lies, and a clear motive. Barry was charged with multiple crimes, including the first-degree murder of his wife, tampering with physical evidence, possessing a dangerous weapon, and attempting to influence a public servant. Barry accepted the charges and paid a $600 fine. A preliminary hearing took place in August 2021 to decide if the case should go to trial, at which point most of the case details were made public. The prosecution presented its evidence over 4 days, outlining its theory of the incident. They claimed that on May 9, 2020, Barry killed his wife, dismembered her body in a hotel room, disposed of the tools, and buried her remains in an unmarked grave. However, Barry's defense strongly challenged the prosecution's narrative, pointing out inconsistencies in their story. They cited that cadaver dogs found no signs of human remains in Barry's car or the hotel room where he supposedly brought the body. The defense also raised doubts about the dart bullet cover, suggesting it may have been planted. Furthermore, the defense argued that Barry's dart gun was broken at the time, making it impossible for him to use it in the murder. The defense team's apparently piece of evidence was partial DNA found in Suzanne's Range Rover and on her bike helmet, which didn't match Barry. What made this discovery significant was that the DNA in her car matched DNA profiles from 3 unsolved sexual assault cases in Chicago and Arizona. This raised doubt about Barry's guilt. However, the CBI investigator in charge of the case was unable to present this crucial evidence earlier because he had to take a leave of absence for military service before. It wasn't until September 7 that the judge decided to move forward with the case, setting Barry's bail at $500,000. He was released from county jail on September 20, 2021. However, in a surprising move, the prosecution filed a motion to dismiss all charges against Barry without prejudice. At the time, the prosecution faced several challenges, including a lack of concrete evidence as no body had been found. Additionally, the prosecution had missed multiple deadlines, resulting in the exclusion of 14 key witnesses from the trial. Barry was seen leaving the courthouse with his 2 daughters, visibly relieved. Nearly 2 years later, on September 22, 2023, investigators made a breakthrough in the case when they discovered several shallow graves in Moffat, Colorado. Suzanne's remains were identified through dental records and a chemotherapy port, found over 50 miles away from the initial search area. The discovery of Suzanne's body has raised fresh questions about Barry's potential involvement in her murder. Although the charges against him were previously dismissed, the new evidence has led many to wonder if he could still be considered a suspect in the case. Some people question how Barry could have disposed of the body without being in Moffat on May 9th and 10th, suggesting he might have had help. For now, Barry does not appear to be directly involved in where his wife's body was found. The police and district attorney's office continue to investigate the case. The 12th Judicial District's district attorney stated that they cannot comment on the case until more information becomes available. While offering condolences to Suzanne's family, Barry's attorney, Iris E.T. Yen, speculates that Suzanne might have been the victim of a serial killer. After finding her remains in a cemetery, Iris thinks that law enforcement wrongly accused Barry and hopes that they will admit their mistake. Barry has initiated a $15 million lawsuit against the prosecutors, sheriff stations, and investigators because he was wrongly accused in the disappearance and death of his wife. Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Adrienne Jones. Adrienne Jessica Jones lived in Mansfield in 1995. At the age of 16, she made a strong impression on the surrounding community with her beauty. Adrienne was known for her hard work in school and her passion for sports, becoming a role model for many. In 1995, Adrienne was a junior at Mansfield High School. From the moment she started studying there, she quickly became a beloved figure. Her friends and teachers admired her kindness, intelligence, and positive spirit. Adrienne was an excellent and ambitious student. She took advanced classes and spent a lot of time studying every day. Her efforts were rewarded with high grades. After graduating from high school, Adrienne planned to become a veterinarian. In addition to her studies, Adrienne is also a talented athlete. She was a member of the women's soccer team and showed impressive skills. However, after an injury, she switched to the women's cross-country team. This shows Adrienne's perseverance and adaptability in both her studies and her sports. The decision to join the cross-country team helped Adrienne maintain an active lifestyle and improve her fitness. She accepted this new challenge and worked hard to improve her fitness. With her determination and dedication, Adrienne quickly became an important member of the team. In addition to her studies and sports activities, Adrienne also worked 20 hours a week at the fast food restaurant Golden Fried Chicken. She loved the attention, especially from teenage boys in Mansfield. A close friend described her as a flirt. Adrienne spent about 2 hours a day carefully applying makeup, always wanting to look perfect. Adrienne was a normal, well-behaved teenager who still tested her parents' boundaries. She had 2 younger brothers and was well protected by her parents. Due to the high crime rate in Mansfield, her parents imposed a curfew after 9 p.m. on weekends to ensure her safety. When Adrienne wanted to go out, such as to an amusement park or the movies, she had to notify her parents and show them her ticket as proof. To prevent her from sneaking out, her father even nailed her bedroom window shut. Although it was not frequent, there were a few times when Adrienne sneaked out in the middle of the night to meet up with friends. On Sunday, December 3rd, 1995, Adrienne was allowed by her parents to stay up late to talk on the phone with her boyfriend, Tracy Smith. Tracy was away on a family trip for the weekend, but Adrienne was desperate to get in touch with him. While they were talking, another call came in. Adrienne's mother heard her daughter was calling Tracy. When her mother asked who was calling, Adrienne said it was David, her cross-country teammate. Adrienne said David seemed upset about something. The next morning, Adrienne's family woke up as usual to get ready for work. When Adrienne's alarm clock continued to ring in her room, her mother began to worry. She went to check on her and found that Adrienne was disappeared. Her bed was made as if no one had slept in it the night before. Adrienne's mother tried to stay calm when she realized that her 16-year-old daughter was missing. At first, she thought Adrienne might have gone for a morning jog, but she quickly dismissed the idea when she saw that her daughter's running shoes were still in her room. Although Adrienne sometimes snuck out in the middle of the night to meet friends, she had never stayed out all night like this. Concerned for their daughter's safety, Adrienne's parents called the police. However, they had no idea that miles away, a man had just made a horrifying discovery on his farm. At approximately 7 a.m., on Seton Road in Grand Prairie, Texas, about 10 miles from Mansfield, a man discovered something unusual while going to get his mail. He noticed that the gate to his home had been knocked down. Curious, he decided to check and witnessed a horrifying scene. At first, he thought it was the carcass of a dead animal on the road, but as he got closer, he realized it was something much more horrifying. A man discovered the body of a young woman and quickly called the police. When police arrived at the scene, they witnessed a horrifying scene. The young woman had been shot twice, with obvious wounds to her left cheek and forehead. It was clearly a targeted murder. In addition, police discovered the young woman with a severe head injury, along with numerous scratches and bruises on her arms and legs. These injuries may have been caused by her running over the barbed wire fence in front of the farm in a desperate attempt to escape. Police found the teen wearing pajamas, as if she was getting ready for bed before she was murdered. They suspected that the case may be gang-related or drug-related, given the execution-style nature of the murder. After finding the body, Grand Prairie Police quickly sent out a notification to agencies in the area. The notification included basic information about the victim, such as age, height, weight, and other identifying characteristics. The goal was to share information and increase awareness, in the hopes of finding a connection between the victim and missing persons cases reported to other agencies. Mansfield police quickly identified the teen murdered in Grand Prairie as Adrienne. They contacted Grand Prairie Police to coordinate the investigation. The next step was to break the sad news to Adrienne's family. Upon hearing the news of her daughter's murder, Adrienne's mother was devastated. Since Mansfield is a small town, news of Adrienne's death quickly spread to Mansfield High School, where she attended. Adrienne's classmates and friends were devastated by the news. Many theories were put forward about the cause of her death, the most common of which was drug use. Some people were also concerned about the possibility of a serial killer on the loose in the community. Her mother reported a phone call between Adrienne and her boyfriend Tracy, and another teenager named David had called at the same time. According to her mother, one of Adrienne's younger brothers heard the sound of a car engine outside the house sometime after midnight. When he looked out, he saw a pickup truck driving away. Police was trying to identify David, who had been in contact with Adrienne on the night of her murder. To gather more information, they approached Adrienne's cross-country coach. The coach said that there was a member of the team named David Graham. However, the coach was surprised to hear that David had called Adrienne, as there had been no previous indication that the two had a relationship. David Graham was a typical American teenager. At the age of 7, after seeing an air show, David decided to become an Air Force pilot and told his father about his dream. Since then, he has worked hard to make his dream come true. At Mansfield High School, David was a popular and well-liked student. He had a natural charm and was always cheerful. Although many girls were interested in him, it was Diane Michelle Zamora, a senior, who pursued David. Diane stood out from the crowd because she shared David's desire to join the military and was actively pursuing her goal. After Adrienne was murdered, the police interviewed David Graham. David admitted to knowing Adrienne since they were both on the cross-country team, but insisted that they were just casual friends. The police asked David if he had been in contact with Adrienne the night she was murdered. David denied it completely, saying that he had been home studying with his girlfriend Diane Zamora that night. The police thoroughly investigated David as a suspect in Adrienne's murder. They contacted Adrienne's friends to find out more information. One of Adrienne's closest friends said that she knew all of Adrienne's secrets, but had never heard Adrienne mention David. Furthermore, when the police checked Adrienne's phone contacts, they did not find David's phone number. This discovery further confirmed that David had nothing to do with Adrienne's murder. So the police eliminated David from the list of suspects. They turned their attention to Tracy Smith, Adrienne's boyfriend. However, the police quickly established that Tracy had a solid alibi. On the night of the murder, he was out of town with his family. In addition, Tracy voluntarily took and passed a lie detector test. This evidence further proved Tracy's innocence in the case. During his interview with the police, Tracy Smith provided important information about Adrienne's murder. He said that on the night of the murder, while talking to Adrienne on the phone, she had told him that someone named Brian had called. Based on this statement, the police investigated and identified Brian as a local teenager whose full name was Brian McMillan. The police believed that Brian might be involved in the case and needed to be further investigated. During the investigation, the police discovered important information about Brian McMillan. They learned that Brian had worked at a pharmacy near the restaurant where Adrienne worked. Brian had developed a crush on Adrienne and frequently visited the restaurant to peek at her. However, Adrienne felt uncomfortable with his constant presence. When the police interviewed Brian about Adrienne's murder, he initially denied any involvement with her. However, Brian later admitted that he knew Adrienne. The police questioned Brian about Adrienne's murder. Brian did not remember talking to Adrienne on the night of her murder. He admitted that he had been drinking that night because he was depressed and lonely. Brian also confessed that he had been at Adrienne's house on the night of the murder. At the end of the interview, the police wanted Brian to take a lie detector test, but Brian's father refused to do so for his son. A week after the police interview, Brian was arrested at home. The police thought carefully and decided to carry a weapon because they suspected Brian might have a gun. They wanted to ensure everyone's safety during the arrest. Brian was charged with Adrienne's murder. However, many of his friends spoke out in his support, describing him as a gentle person with no violent tendencies. This created a contradiction between the police's accusations and the comments of those who knew Brian. Brian's father confirmed that his son was home the night Adrienne was murdered. Brian was held in custody for 3 weeks, including Christmas and New Year's, pending further investigation and legal proceedings. During this time, the district attorney's office asked Brian to take a polygraph test, which he passed with flying colors. Due to the lack of evidence linking Brian to Adrienne's murder, the district attorney's office decided to release him. After 9 months of investigating Adrienne's murder, the Mansfield, Texas police made a major breakthrough. The information came from Annapolis, Maryland, where Diane was a student at the Naval Academy. According to reports from officers at the academy, Diane admitted to several classmates that she and her boyfriend David Graham had murdered a girl named Adrienne Jones while they were living in Mansfield, Texas. Police from Mansfield traveled to Annapolis, Maryland to question Diane shortly after receiving the information. During the interview, Diane denied all of her previous confessions. However, the Naval Academy decided to suspend her and send her home while the investigation was ongoing. After failing to get any information from Diane, the police traveled to Colorado Springs, Colorado, to interview David at the Air Force Academy. When questioned, David said he did not understand why Diane would make up the story about killing Adrienne. During the interview, David began to lose his temper and asked to write a statement. He wrote a 4.5-page confession letter detailing how he and his girlfriend Diane planned to kill Adrienne. In the letter, David recounted an incident that occurred in November 1995 when he offered to give Adrienne a ride home. On the way, they stopped in an elementary school parking lot and had sex. David felt extremely remorseful after cheating on his girlfriend Diane. He loved her very much and knew that his actions would hurt her deeply. One night, while the two were studying for the SATs together, they had an argument. Unable to bear the guilt any longer, David decided to confess. He sat down on a chair, sobbed, and admitted to Diane that he had been unfaithful. After David confessed to Diane that he had been unfaithful and had an affair with Adrienne, Diane felt extremely hurt and angry. David's betrayal had broken her heart. In a fit of rage, Diane argued and yelled at David. She even wished he were dead and felt deep hatred for Adrienne. Diane's emotions were so strong that it was difficult for her to understand and accept what had happened. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, David told Diane that he was willing to do anything to save their relationship. David revealed that he and Diane had decided that in order to save their love, they needed to kill someone. They chose Adrienne as their victim. In his confession letter, David recounted that on December 3rd, he called Adrienne and arranged to meet her secretly late at night. He told Adrienne not to tell anyone about the meeting. David had originally planned to meet Adrienne alone, kill her, and dump her body in a lake. However, at 2:30 a.m., David picked Adrienne up in his car, and Diane secretly accompanied him by hiding in the back seat. David drove to a remote location 10 miles from town. Here, he turned off the highway and onto a road called Satan Road. David stopped the car on the side of the road. Adrienne gently adjusted her sitting position, thinking that she and David were about to have a private moment. However, David had silently called Diane out of the trunk of the car. Diane appeared from behind, walked around the front of the car, and approached. As she approached, she came face to face with Adrienne, who was sitting in the passenger seat. Diane attacked Adrienne with a dumbbell from David's exercise equipment. Despite being badly injured, Adrienne escaped through the window of David's car. David and Diane panicked, so David grabbed a 9mm Makarov and chased Adrienne. Due to her head wound, Adrienne did not get far and collapsed in a nearby field. When David caught up, he shot Adrienne twice and returned to the car. After Adrienne died, the first words Diane and David said to each other were, "I love you." After David confessed to killing Adrienne, the police returned to question Diane. Surprisingly, Diane also gave her own confession. Both David and Diane were arrested and charged with premeditated murder. However, both later recanted their initial statements. David claimed that Diane was the real culprit, while Diane accused David of acting alone. In 1998, Diane's trial took place in February of that year. During the trial, several witnesses testified that Diane had shown no remorse for killing Adrienne. After deliberations, the jury returned a verdict on February 17, finding Diane guilty of premeditated murder. As a result of this verdict, Diane was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 40 years. In the same case, David Graham was also convicted of Adrienne's murder and received the same sentence, life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years.
Welcome back, mystery lovers. Today's case is going to keep you on the edge of your seat. The case of Michelle Leng. In 2018, 20-year-old Michelle Leng departed from a major airport in northern Sichuan province, China, during a heavy rainstorm. She tearfully bid farewell to her mother, who had become her closest confidant since her father's passing in 2008. Michelle embarked on her journey to Australia, a country she had long dreamed of studying in since childhood. After an 11-hour flight, Michelle arrived in Sydney. Although it was her first time traveling such a great distance alone, her determination to pursue her dream helped her overcome any challenges she faced. Upon landing, she was greeted by her aunt and her cousin, who was just 2 years younger than Michelle. She lived happily with her 48-year-old aunt, her aunt's young husband Derek Barrett, and her cousin in their house. Michelle had her own room where she spent most of her free time reading and drawing, which were her favorite hobbies. Michelle was a bright and ambitious student who pursued economics and hospitality management at the University of Technology in Sydney. She was outgoing, adaptable, and easily made new friends. Like many young women her age, Michelle enjoyed sharing her social life on social media, posting pictures of herself enjoying cocktails with friends and engaging in adventurous activities. Michelle had a passion for exploration and was always ready for new experiences. She frequently traveled around New South Wales on day trips and even ventured as far as Hobart for vacations. Her adventurous spirit was evident in her recent social media posts, which included videos from West Head Lookout near Sydney Harbour, photos from Resolute Beach in Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park north of the city, and images from Berry Beach on the south coast. On June 13, 2013, Michelle went to Snapper Point where she bravely took a photo of herself on the edge of a cliff. She then shared this ominous photo on her Instagram account. Michelle was excelling in her studies, making new friends, and had found a part-time job. Eager to organize her personal life, she regularly communicated with men on dating sites and went on trial dates. She led an active and busy life. She attended her classes during the day, then rushed to work. On weekends, she made sure to meet up with her friends and visit places. On April 21, 2016, Michelle spent the day with a friend at the mall, having lunch and shopping. Later, she took a train and was last seen getting off at Central Station around 4:30 p.m. She disappeared after that. 2 days later, Derek went to the train station to pick up his wife, who was returning from a business trip. Derek's aunt asked him about Michelle, and he informed her that he hadn't seen Michelle in 2 days. Derek, who had been jobless for a while, had a habit of staying up late on his computer and sleeping until the afternoon. Although it was possible he hadn't seen Michelle, the situation was concerning because no one had heard from her since April 22, and her phone was turned off. Michelle's aunt grew increasingly worried after calling all of Michelle's friends and acquaintances. Upon inspecting Michelle's room, everything appeared to be in its usual perfect order. After examining Michelle's laptop, the family concluded that she hadn't returned from her date, and they feared something might have happened to her. Michelle's disappearance was particularly alarming because she typically maintained daily contact with friends and family members living in China and Australia. On the day following Michelle's disappearance, her aunt and uncle Derek reported her missing to the police and informed the Chinese embassy. On April 24, 2016, tourists discovered a woman's body in a plastic bag at Snapper Point. While Michelle's relatives in both China and Australia were searching for her, local news channels reported the discovery of the unidentified body. When a sketch of the victim was released, it became clear that the body was Michelle's. Police took 3 days to officially identify her using the sketch. Subsequently, Michelle's case was officially classified as a missing person, and an investigation began. After interviewing close relatives who lived with Michelle, the initial theory was that she had been attacked by a stranger she had planned to meet that day. Security cameras recorded her movements on the day of her disappearance. In the footage and during a short train ride, Michelle was alone. According to her friends, she had no plans to meet anyone that day and was in a hurry to get home. The analysis of her social media accounts and correspondence did not confirm the existence of a young man she might have arranged to meet. Thus, the theory about a mysterious stranger who could have committed the crime was not confirmed. The autopsy confirmed that Michelle's body had multiple injuries, indicating she likely tried to defend herself from her attacker, suffering several stab wounds. Police Chief Inspector Gary Jubin stated that the evidence suggests Michelle was brutally assaulted before her death. She was last seen on her way home and didn't deviate to any other location, which raises questions about who could have attacked her so violently. The inspector also noted that the perpetrator probably deliberately chose a very isolated area in an otherwise beautiful place. The body was found in an area frequented by tourists and fishermen, but at a specific spot that was quite secluded. Forensic analysis revealed that Michelle's body had been in the water for less than 48 hours, possibly much less. The police chief inspector noted that while the body was found far from the national park entrance, a nearby parking lot made it possible for someone to transport the body by car. Homicide detectives examined CCTV footage and traffic cameras to trace Michelle's final movements. They also interviewed family members, friends, and co-workers to gather more information, aiming to reconstruct the events leading up to her death and understand the family dynamics in Michelle's household. Inspector Gary stressed that based on all gathered information, Michelle was known to be very responsible and consistently communicated her whereabouts to her family. Her sudden disappearance raised significant concerns for her well-being. Surprisingly, for 2 days, her family either didn't realize she was missing or chose to ignore it. As Derek was the last person known to have seen Michelle alive, police brought him in for questioning. Investigators found his stories about nighttime activities and extended daytime sleeping suspicious, leading them to conduct follow-up interviews. During these, they probed into his relationship with Michelle and asked him to recall their last encounter in detail. Derek, overwhelmed by the intense questioning, stopped answering and requested legal representation. His unusual behavior raised suspicions, leading to his arrest as a suspect. The arrest was explained by 2 key pieces of evidence. First, investigators discovered that Derek's cell phone signal placed him in the vicinity where Michelle's body was found on April 24th. Second, police obtained surveillance footage from a nearby parking lot, showing a car matching Derek's vehicle in the early morning hours of that same day. These findings strongly suggested Derek's presence at the crime scene, leaving little doubt about his involvement. Derek denied the accusations and claimed that his presence in the parking lot was a mere coincidence, insisting that the car wasn't his. However, the surveillance footage was clear enough to prove he was there. The police charged him for the death of 25-year-old Michelle, whose naked body with multiple stab wounds was found in a blowhole on the central coast of New South Wales. The news of Derek's arrest and the charges against him shocked Michelle's entire family. The police spoke with Michelle's mother, who was devastated by her daughter's death and rushed to Sydney to see the place where her only daughter's dreams and life came to an end. She still couldn't come to terms with her passing. Derek Barrett, a 27-year-old man married to Michelle's aunt, was charged with the murder of the 25-year-old student. Police released CCTV footage showing Michelle's final movements on April 21st in Sydney's central business district. The video captured her shopping at Pitt Street Mall and then taking a train from St James Station to Casula in Sydney's southwest. Investigators believe Michelle returned to her family home in Casula that afternoon, where she lived with her uncle, aunt, and cousin. It is presumed that she was murdered in her home. CCTV footage reportedly showed a vehicle entering Lake Munmora National Park around 7 a.m. on April 24th. Police believe Michelle's body was in this vehicle. Although Derek was arrested and charged initially, the investigation continued. As more information about Michelle's final moments came to light, additional charges were filed against Derek. These included 5 counts of indecent assault, 2 counts of installing a filming device, and murder. The investigation also uncovered that the suspect had an inappropriate sexual interest in his wife's young niece. Analysis of Derek's cell phone revealed crucial evidence. Deleted files were recovered that demonstrated his involvement in Michelle's death and his unhealthy obsession with her. It was discovered that Derek had installed a hidden camera in the shared bathroom and regularly reviewed the recordings. The phone also contained images taken shortly before Michelle's death. Records showed that Michelle arrived home on April 21 around 5 p.m. Her last text message was sent close to midnight, and she was not heard from again after that. During the night, Derek carried out his wicked plan. He entered Michelle's room while she was sleeping to record her, as he had done before, but this time she woke up and he attacked her. He tied her up and covered her mouth with duct tape to silence her. Derek kept Michelle tied to the bed for 2 days, periodically abusing her. Investigators found photos on Derek's phone showing Michelle naked and bound, with an expression of terror. These images didn't show the injuries that eventually caused her death. The last photo was taken around 8 a.m. on April 23, when Michelle was still alive. On April 23, Derek's stepson came home twice, not hearing Michelle's quiet moans. Derek was taking a shower at the time. Security cameras recorded Derek leaving the apartment 4 times to take out the trash. Michelle was likely already dead by then, and after showering and washing off the blood, Derek thoroughly cleaned the house, hiding any evidence of the crime and Michelle's disappearance. On April 24 at 7 a.m., Derek drove to Snapper Point. On the way, he stopped at a gas station where he bought drinks and filled up his car. He was captured there by security cameras. Upon arriving at Snapper Point around 9 a.m., he disposed of Michelle's body and took some photographs of the area. Afterwards, Derek visited his parents, who didn't notice anything unusual in his behavior. He then returned home to wait for his wife's return. With complete calmness, he reported several times that he hadn't seen Michelle and that she hadn't come home. Cynically, he accompanied his wife to the police station to file a missing person report. The Derek judicial hearing was held on June 29, 2016. Bill Whitby, Derek's lawyer, informed the local Bowood court that his client pleaded not guilty and was as shocked and grief-stricken by Michelle's death as the rest of the family. Michelle's friends and family filled the courtroom, but Derek didn't need to be present. He later appeared via video conference. A day before the hearing, the accused had stated that he didn't remember much about the hours leading up to Michelle's murder due to his use of illegal drugs. He also informed the court that he only had vague memories of the 2-hour trip to Snapper Point, where he threw Michelle's body off the cliff. Before the court hearing, Derek underwent a psychological evaluation. However, forensic psychologist Dr. Richard challenged Derek's claims of memory loss. Dr. Richard testified that Derek was mentally fit to receive the full sentence for his actions. He explained that the drugs Derek had been taking were not known to cause memory loss. Dr. Richard argued that all of Derek's actions, from the murder to the disposal of the body, were deliberate and purposeful. He also reported that Derek's IQ, concentration, and memory were within normal ranges. Furthermore, Dr. Richard dismissed Derek's claims of memory loss, stating that the high number of stab wounds suggested sadistic tendencies rather than emotional outbursts or memory lapses. This expert testimony significantly undermined Derek's defense. The psychologist also rejected Derek's claim that he had no sexual attraction towards the victim. Derek tied up, gagged, and stabbed the young girl 30 times, but he claimed to have no memory of these acts. Dr. Richard also told the court that the accused was faking amnesia to lessen his responsibility for the crime, after claiming not to remember the period during which he had apprehended and killed Michelle. During the trial, Derek tried to explain his crime by claiming to be addicted to illegal drugs. However, This claim was also questioned by the doctor. Richard pointed out that Derek's statement was contradictory, as it was obvious that Derek had gained weight during this period. Judge Wilson stated that in his 30 years as a criminal defense lawyer, he had never seen an obese person addicted to substances. During a court hearing in Sydney, Derek's demeanor exhibited characteristics often associated with psychopathy. His crime was not attributed to intoxication, poor decision-making, or a history of abuse. At a retrial in August, Derek admitted to murdering and kidnapping Michelle, as well as secretly entering her room on 2 occasions while she slept to make videos. He also confessed to taking 19 explicit photographs of Michelle shortly before her death. Derek claimed he had no recollection of the 48-hour period surrounding the murder, including cleaning the crime scene and disposing of the body, due to being under the influence of illegal substances. He stated that his only memories were of an argument, blood in the bathroom, and his niece's terrified face as she screamed at him. Judge Wilson dismissed Derek's claims of memory loss and lack of remorse as insincere. The Michelle family comforted each other while Derek tearfully insisted he deserved to live and expressed regret for his actions. Judge Wilson described the crime as depraved and brutal, carried out by a trusted relative. As the judge recounted Derek's fantasies and actions, he stared at the floor, no longer reveling in the attention. It was clear his attempts to deceive had failed. Despite claiming drug-induced memory lapses, the events were likely vivid in his mind. Throughout the court proceedings, Derek remained stoic, repeatedly uttering his victim's name. In his statement to the court, Chief Inspector Gary Jubilant from the NSW Police Homicide Unit described the crime as horrific and senseless. He expressed satisfaction that justice was served but emphasized that there was no happiness in such a case. Judge Wilson handed down a sentence of 34 years and 6 months to 28-year-old Derek Barrett, with a maximum term of 46 years. Barrett will be eligible for parole in 2050. He remained emotionless as the sentence was delivered. Michelle Leng's mother expressed her gratitude to both the Australian and Chinese communities for their support during this difficult time of grief. She specifically acknowledged the efforts of the NSW police, particularly Detective Inspector Gary Jubilant from the Homicide Squad, for their work in investigating her daughter's death. To assist with funeral expenses and provide financial support for Mrs. Leng when she returns to China, a fund has been established. Michelle's tragic story took an unexpected turn 4 years after her death. During a routine visit to her elderly mother, a woman made a shocking discovery. She found her mother holding an unfamiliar USB drive in the kitchen. Curious about its contents, the daughter plugged the device into her computer. To her horror, she found it contained disturbing videos and photos of a sexual nature. Alarmed, she immediately contacted the police. Upon investigation, authorities discovered that the USB drive held 9 video files totaling over an hour in length, as well as 13 photo files. These files documented the abuse Michelle endured shortly before her murder on April 23, 2016, providing crucial evidence in the case. The woman had no apparent connection to Derek and lived about 6 kilometers from his former home. The origin of the USB device and how it ended up in the woman's family home is unknown. The police were able to link the photos found on the USB to those Derek had deleted from his phone before his arrest, in an attempt to hide his crimes. In 2020, Derek was charged with several sexual offenses after videos of him abusing Michelle were discovered on the USB device in November 2019. However, the police and prosecutors admitted they had hit a dead end regarding the discovery of the device, which led to the new charges. The prosecutor Hugh Baker informed the court that the elderly woman with dementia was confined to her home and only went out to the yard. There's no explanation for how the USB ended up in the woman's possession at the residence in Strathfield, Hugh told the court. Based on new facts and evidence, Derek's sentence was extended without the possibility of parole after images accidentally found revealed the full extent of his abuse against Michelle before murdering her. This horrible and depraved secret, discovered by chance in the hands of an elderly woman in a leafy Sydney suburb, resulted in additional years of well-deserved punishment for the convicted criminal, on top of his already lengthy sentence. The tragic case of Michelle Leng serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. Michelle, a vibrant young woman with dreams of a bright future, fell victim to a betrayal from within her own family. The harrowing details of her story reveal the depths of human depravity and the complexities of trust and betrayal. As justice was ultimately served, it leaves a lingering sense of sorrow for the life cut short and a call to honor Michelle's memory by remaining vigilant against such heinous acts in our communities.
Hello again, true crime fans. We've got another mysterious case to explore. The case of Lizzie Marriott. Lizzie Marriott, a 19-year-old college student, went missing on October 9, 2012, after attending her classes. Before leaving, she left a note for her aunt and uncle, Tony and Becky Hanna, with whom she was staying. In the note, Lizzie said she was visiting a friend and would return before midnight. However, she did not return that night or the next day. Her car was later found in the school parking lot, but she was nowhere to be found. The investigation into her disappearance eventually turned to the search for her body. Police discovered that a group of people were involved in her death. Lizzie became a favorite member of Tony and Becky's family, moving in with them to save on housing costs while she attended the University of New Hampshire. She has always had a passion for marine animals, which inspired her to pursue a career in marine biology. In the fall of 2012, Lizzie moved away from her parents, Bob and Melissa Marriott, in Massachusetts to start a new life in Chester. Despite the 2-hour drive, they remained close and kept in touch. Lizzie's gentle, kind, and sweet nature made her a lovable person, and her presence brought joy to those around her. Tony and Becky remember her warm greeting, "I'm home," which filled their hearts with love and happiness whenever she returned to their home. As Lizzie settled into her new life, she worked at Target in her spare time, where she quickly adapted and built a good reputation. Lizzie met 18-year-old Kate McDonald, and the two quickly became friends, often hanging out after work. One evening, Kate invites Lizzie to her apartment for dinner and a movie. Lizzie agrees. However, their plans for a quiet evening are disrupted when Kate's 30-year-old boyfriend, Seth Mazzaglia, joins them. Lizzie doesn't mind Seth's surprise appearance, thinking it would be more fun to have a friend. Moreover, her new acquaintances are interesting people related to the theater. And Seth graduated from the same university as Lizzie but majored in theater arts. With many of the same interests, the evening looks like it will be a lot of fun. However, Lizzie doesn't know that her decision to enter the apartment that night will be a fateful one, as she will never leave again. Lizzie's relatives wait until the next evening, thinking that she may have stayed overnight with a friend before going to college. However, when she did not appear on October 10th, her aunt and uncle became worried and contacted her parents. But her parents had no information about her whereabouts. After receiving the news, Lizzie's mother and father immediately drove to Chester, reporting her missing to the police along the way. The search for Lizzie involved not only the police and her relatives, but also her friends. To begin the investigation, everyone who knew her was questioned. Although her relatives were unsure of her whereabouts, her friends were able to provide some information. A friend named Nate Michael said he knew where she might be and pointed to Kate McDonald. The police took note of this and began to follow up on new leads. Meanwhile, it was discovered that there was no activity on Lizzie's bank account and her phone was turned off. This ruled out the initial possibility that she had been in an accident. The investigation took a significant turn when her car was found just a few days later. At the same time, Bob and Melissa Marriott announced a $10,000 reward for information about their missing daughter. After speaking with Lizzie's friends and acquaintances, the police discovered some surprising details about Lizzie's coworker, Kate, and her boyfriend Seth Mazzaglia. It was clear that the couple was not what they appeared to be in public. Seth was later arrested. Lizzie and Kate's acquaintances revealed that the two girls had been spending a lot of time together recently, but their personalities and attitudes towards life seemed different. Lizzie was known to be friendly and compassionate, while Kate was often described as reserved and rude. However, employees at the store noticed a change in Kate's behavior after she started dating Seth, suggesting that she had been influenced by his bad traits over time. She had undergone significant changes, losing her previous carefree and bubbly personality. Unbeknownst to them, she had also begun to distance herself from relatives who disapproved of her new boyfriend. The couple began dating when Seth was 17, and after she turned 18, they moved in together at Mel's apartment in Dover, New Hampshire. Police kept a close eye on the couple and conducted background checks but found nothing unusual. While studying the young couple's online profiles, officers discovered details about their personal lives. Seth and Kate had an unusual relationship. On a website, Kate, using the pseudonym Miss Scarlet, a vampire actress, posted an ad. She wrote that she and her partner were looking for a live-in maid. Required duties included cleaning the house, washing dishes, laundry, cooking, and being available for sex at any time. Kate also shared information about herself and her partner, describing their relationship as dominant and submissive, with the former giving orders and controlling while the latter completely submitted to his will. Kate had attached photos of herself in a Gothic style to the post. It was clear that their relationship was not based on love and mutual respect, but on humiliation and submission. The couple practiced a form of bondage, discipline, dominance, and submission, with Seth as the dominant partner and Kate as the submissive. This discovery led the police to strongly suspect that they might be involved in Lizzie's disappearance. On October 12, the police interviewed Kate and Seth. The police separated them to gather information more effectively. For 2 hours, Kate insisted that she had not seen Lizzie on October 9th. Then she refused to talk altogether. Seth, on the other hand, provided more details, confirming that Lizzie had been at their house that day. According to Seth, the evening involved watching movies, playing strip poker, and then having consensual sex with 2 women. During this intimate encounter, Seth claimed that he had tied the women up with rope, but the situation turned tragic, resulting in Lizzie's accidental death. Then, in a state of shock and fear of being misunderstood, he and Kate took the girl's body to Pierce Island and threw it into the Piscataqua River. They then went home. After an 11-hour interrogation, Seth took police to the location where he said he dumped Lizzie's body, reenacting the scene where he threw her off the cliff. He was later charged with murder on October 13th. The news of their daughter's death was devastating to Melissa and Bob Marriott. A candlelight vigil was held in Lizzie's memory that same day. At the vigil, Bob expressed his gratitude to those in attendance and hoped that the collective prayer would bring Lizzie peace. He described his daughter as an angel who had gone to heaven. Her friend Nate, who was actively involved in the search for Lizzie, remembered her as always telling funny stories to lift the spirits or comfort others during difficult times. He sadly wondered if she would ever find the right words to comfort them in her current situation. However, Lizzie's parents refused to accept the circumstances of her death as Seth described. Her parents asked the police to find their daughter's body as soon as possible so they could say goodbye and give her a proper burial. The search for Lizzie continued, with the cooperation of volunteers and police. However, the river where Lizzie's body was dumped was subject to strong currents, and it is likely that she had drifted into the Atlantic Ocean. The investigation expanded to include a thorough search of Seth and Kate's apartment and the surrounding area. Police found that their apartment was unclean and very messy. They also discovered that Seth had an interest in occultism and black magic. Since no evidence was found in the apartment, forensic experts examined the surrounding area, including the trash cans. In one of the bins, they found a bag containing a sweatshirt, black leather gloves, and men's underwear. After an autopsy, underwear was found to contain DNA from both Seth and Lizzie, confirming their intimate relationship. Police also found a sweater that was identified by Lizzie's family as hers. On October 17th, Kate gave her statement after a period of silence. She described a get-together with Lizzie on October 9th. The evening began as a movie night but then turned into a game of strip poker. During the game, they became excited and decided to have sex, with all parties allegedly consenting. According to Kate, the interactions began with affectionate touches and kisses before Seth suggested tying Lizzie up with rope, an idea she agreed to. Kate even reenacted Seth tying Lizzie up with rope. Everything was going well, but suddenly Lizzie had a seizure. She began having difficulty breathing, and a few minutes later, she passed out. When Seth and Kate lifted the girl up, she stopped breathing. It all happened quickly and unexpectedly. Kate claimed that no one was responsible for what happened, it was an accident. However, a crucial testimony later emerged, shedding further light on the case. One day, a young woman came to the police station, claiming that she had important information about the Lizzie Marriott case. She asked to speak to the police officer leading the investigation. During the conversation, the woman introduced herself as Catherine Fish, Seth's ex-girlfriend. As she shared her story, she hinted that Seth was capable of murder. She revealed that, during their relationship, he had once confessed to her that in one of his fantasies, he had taken someone's life. Catherine and Seth met about 10 years ago. Initially, Seth appeared to be a charming and attentive man, showering Catherine with attention, flowers, and gifts. He was charming in conversation, and Catherine quickly fell in love with him. However, things took an unexpected turn during their first intimate encounter, when Catherine discovered that Seth enjoyed physical violence. Although Catherine was initially willing to explore new experiences as long as Seth remained in control, she soon became uncomfortable as Seth's behavior became increasingly cruel and aggressive. Seth would occasionally share his disturbing thoughts and fantasies with Catherine, which only made her increasingly anxious. One particularly unpleasant conversation led Catherine to a terrifying realization: Seth could be a danger to her. This fear was soon confirmed when Seth, in a fit of aggression, grabbed Catherine by the neck, squeezing despite her desperate pleas to let go. Catherine's life became increasingly uncomfortable after her boyfriend, Seth, brought home several different girls, claiming that they needed a third, long-term partner to spice up their relationship. Catherine's life became hell. She admitted that Seth scared her so much that she didn't dare to escape. After a few months, she finally got the courage to run away. Catherine miraculously traveled 1,000 miles to her parents' house, never to see her ex-boyfriend again. In May 2014, Seth appeared in court on charges including attempted murder. Several witnesses testified against him, including Kate McDonald, who was arrested 2 months after Lizzie's death on charges of obstruction of justice and obstruction of justice. While in custody, Kate had plenty of time to reflect on her actions and the person she was protecting. Initially, she and Seth maintained an active correspondence while she was behind bars. The pair shared romantic visions of escaping together and fleeing to a country without extradition laws where they could marry and start a family. However, their escape plan hit a snag. Seth convinced his soon-to-be-released cellmate, Ryan Bachman, to assist in the plan. Ryan was given access to Seth's bank account and instructed to withdraw money, buy drugs with the money, and then sell the drugs to increase his initial capital. The plan was to use the extra money to buy various items, including guns, 2 cars, explosives, and a boat. However, Ryan decided to use the money for his own purposes, and the police soon discovered the plan. Seth therefore abandoned his escape plan and sent Kate a letter, suggesting that they would meet in the afterlife, hinting at the possibility that death was not the end of life. Some interpreted this as a suggestion for Kate to end her life. Over time, Kate's thinking became clearer, and when the prosecutor's office offered her a favorable deal in 2014, she accepted without hesitation. The deal required Kate to give a truthful account of the events that occurred on the evening of October 9th in the apartment. In return, her potential 20-year prison sentence was reduced to 3 years. Kate said that after she started a relationship with Seth, she was terrified of him and did everything he told her to do. Over time, Seth took control of her life, suppressed her free will, and made her dependent on him. A month and a half before Lizzie's death, Seth sent her a text message, asking her to find another partner as soon as possible because he didn't want to be alone while she was away on a 10-day theatrical tour. However, Kate was unable to find anyone to replace her. Over time, Seth's messages became more aggressive, shifting from commands to threats. He warned her that if she didn't follow his instructions, she would face serious consequences. At the very least, Seth wanted her to bring a friend to spend time with so he could pursue his plans. To fulfill his request, Kate invites her friend Lizzie, as Lizzie has been to Kate's house before and trusts her. Lizzie is unaware that Seth planned this and is happy that she is the chosen partner, as he has seen her pictures before. To ensure that Lizzie will come without hesitation, Kate does not tell her that they will have Seth join them. Lizzie arrives at Kate's apartment on October 9th at 9 p.m. Initially, Kate and Lizzie socialize while Seth joins in later, creating a lively atmosphere with his jokes and interest in the girls. When they move on to watch a movie, Seth suggests a strip card game, which adds an intimate atmosphere to the scene. The game goes normally, but Lizzie is losing, so she strips in her underwear for another losing game. Seth suggested kissing Lizzie, but the girl refused, explaining that she had a boyfriend and that disgusted her. After a while, Seth asked Lizzie to be alone, and she replied no. In response, Seth angrily left the room, put on a pair of black leather gloves, and grabbed a rope. He then returned, sat down behind Lizzie, and quickly wrapped the rope around her neck. Lizzie was taken by surprise and had no time to react. Seth had strangled her without hesitation. He then desecrated the victim's body. During the whole process, Kate sat nearby, frozen in fear. She was afraid that she would be the next victim, so she did nothing to help poor Lizzie. Around 1 a.m., the couple put Lizzie's body in a suitcase after wrapping it in a tarp and some pollen. They transported the suitcase to Lizzie's car and drove to Pierce Island, which was located by the river. Once on the island, they took the suitcase to an observation deck and took the body out, throwing it over the cliff. After dumping the body, the couple cleaned up in the car, then drove to the school and left Lizzie's car in the parking lot. From there, they walked about 10 miles home. Kate later explained that she was very scared and shocked during the whole process. She later refused to testify against Seth because she was afraid he would hurt her. During the trial, the girl appeared to be in pain, crying continuously, but not shedding a single tear. Because of this, many in the courtroom doubted her sincerity. They believed that she might be a talented actress and that she could easily fake her pain. The defense took note of this and argued that the girl's emotional display was fabricated. Meanwhile, both the defense and the prosecution agreed that the couple disposed of Lizzie's body after she died. However, they disagreed on the circumstances surrounding the death. Seth's defense argued that the victim, Lizzie, died as a result of an accident during an intimate encounter. Kate's defense, on the other hand, claimed that the death was intentional and asserted that Kate had been under great pressure from Seth, who isolated her from her family and friends and forced her into intimate relationships. This, according to the defense, had a significant impact on her mental state. The prosecution, on the other hand, focused on proving that the crime was an act of intentional homicide. They presented the discovery of the gloves as crucial evidence, which they alleged showed that Seth had tried to cover his tracks. According to the prosecution, Seth was aware of what he had done. The prosecution's witnesses also included Roberta Gherkin and Paul Hickok, acquaintances of the couple. It turned out that at 10:49 p.m., after Lizzie's death, Seth called them. He said he needed help and asked them to come. After 11 p.m., the couple went to Seth's apartment, where they witnessed a disturbing scene, Seth sitting on the bed next to a girl in lingerie. When Paul asked about the situation, Seth repeatedly said, "This time it's gone too far." Roberta discovered Kate curled up on the kitchen floor. Upon witnessing this, the couple urged Seth to call an ambulance and quickly left the scene. They chose not to intervene or contact the police to avoid any further trouble. Seth Mazzaglia, 32, was convicted of first-degree murder by strangulation and conspiracy on August 14, 2014. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. His co-defendant, Kate McDonald, 20, was sentenced to 3 years in prison. After her release in 2016, Kate lived a fairly private life, with many believing she had returned to her parents' home. Tragically, Lizzie Marriott's body was never found. Her parents, Bob and Melissa, created a memorial bench in their hometown to honor their daughter. While they accept that justice has been served in part through Seth's sentencing, they find it difficult to accept the leniency of Kate McDonald's sentence, claiming that their daughter will never return. Welcome back, mystery lovers. Today's case is going to keep you on the edge of your seat. The case of Karen Newell. Sunday evening, February 20th, 1994, on a desolate rural road in Orange County, Florida, between Cocoa Beach and Orlando. A car was parked on the side of the road, and a woman was frantically waving her arms at passing vehicles. When a driver finally stopped, she pleaded for help. In the car's headlights, a man could be seen bleeding in the passenger seat. A woman named Karen Newell was trying to save her husband, John Newell, who had been shot multiple times but was still alive. Karen asked the driver for a phone and urgently called 911, screaming that her husband was dying. Within minutes, a deputy sheriff arrived, followed by police and paramedics, but it was too late for John. He needed a forensic expert, not medical assistance. He died before help could arrive, and all the doctors could do was confirm his death from multiple gunshot wounds. They immediately began communicating with Karen about the tragic situation. Karen recounted that they were attacked while returning home to Orlando after a day at the beach. On the way back, their car started having problems that she couldn't understand. Her husband asked her to pull over to the side of the road to check the issue. As Karen got out and opened the hood, a small sedan parked right next to them. Inside were 3 men who looked threatening. One detail she remembered was a sticker on the rear window that said "Bad Boy." The men got out of their car without noticing Karen, who was focused on the engine. She watched as one of them approached her husband's window and demanded his wallet. Her husband refused and tried to defend himself. During the struggle, one of the attackers pulled out a gun and shot him multiple times. Afterward, the men jumped back into their car and drove away. Fortunately, Karen was unharmed. She quickly ran to John, who was bleeding. She felt helpless and couldn't do anything to save him. Karen Newell was originally from Florida and had faced a difficult life filled with cruelty since childhood. Despite these challenges, she maintained a cheerful and energetic spirit, enjoying parties and socializing with her many friends throughout high school. As she blossomed into a beautiful young woman, heads turned wherever she went, but this did not lead to a happy family life. After graduating, she experienced several unsuccessful relationships and, by her 20th birthday, had been married twice, with both marriages ending in divorce. Nevertheless, she hopeful. That spring, she focused on advancing her career. Previously, she had held various accounting jobs and worked as a nurse in a private clinic. This charming brunette even entered beauty contests, hoping to launch a modeling career, but luck was not on her side in those pursuits. One evening, she walked into a bar in one of Orlando's suburbs. There, she found a friendly stranger sitting alone with a drink. He was John, a respected local mechanic who owned a car repair shop. Just before their meeting, John had gone through a difficult breakup with his first wife, a Navy nurse who had just returned home from a long business trip. She told him she was seeing someone else, which was why he went to the bar that night. When Karen saw him, she felt an immediate attraction. Confident and outgoing, she approached him, sat down next to him, and began chatting. She discovered that he was the owner of a popular auto repair shop, young, successful, and attractive. Their brief encounter quickly developed into a passionate night. John then fell in love with Karen, and she felt the same. Their relationship flourished rapidly, and just 2 months after their intense night together, they got married on May 22, 1993. The newlyweds appeared genuinely happy, surrounded by a wave of love and joy. Shortly after their wedding, Karen's modeling prospects improved, thanks to her husband's connections and her regular participation in beauty contests. She landed a well-paying television job, leading to a busy schedule that often kept her away for several days. Despite John's worries about losing Karen like he lost his first wife, she reassured him that she would never betray him. She reminded him that their sacrifices would eventually pay off, and together they dreamed of retiring in 5 years, free from work and worry. However, just a few months after their wedding, Karen discovered she was pregnant. The couple was thrilled. John's desire for a large family seemed within reach, and they continued to support each other through this exciting new chapter. A few days after Valentine's Day, they planned a weekend getaway to the beach in Florida to relax after a busy week. On February 20th, John and Karen packed their bags and drove to Cocoa Beach, located on the east side of Orlando. Known for its stunning views and excellent surfing, they spent the entire day enjoying the beach, having a barbecue, swimming, and before leaving, stopped by a surf shop to buy some gear. After that, they packed their belongings and headed home. Karen was driving because her husband had consumed some alcohol earlier and wanted to avoid losing his license. John sat in the front passenger seat. They passed through a toll booth and entered the state highway. At this time, her husband was adjusting the radio, which wasn't functioning properly. Suddenly, the car skidded slightly. Karen mentioned to her husband that the car felt odd, and she noticed a strong vibration in the steering wheel. They decided to pull over and investigate, but then the attack occurred. John was shot multiple times while sitting in the passenger seat of the car. The police conducted a detailed search for the attackers. Using Karen's testimony, they were able to create a detailed description of the car, noting one key detail, a sticker on the rear window. Karen later reported feeling unwell. She was pregnant, so emergency services rushed her to the hospital to ensure her and her baby's safety. 2.40 caliber shell casings were found near the car, indicating that the men were dangerous criminals. They were armed with at least one handgun. Surprisingly, they fled so quickly that they forgot to take the victim's wallet. Police alerted neighboring counties, notified all available patrols, and warned drivers of passing cars. Checkpoints were set up, with officers carefully monitoring vehicles. Initially, attention was focused on cars with bad boy stickers. However, no drivers reported seeing such a car, and it did not pass through the checkpoints. In the ambulance, Karen answered all the necessary questions about the incident. However, the health of the Karen and child was the main priority at that time. After being examined at the hospital, doctors confirmed that the Karen was in stable condition. She was able to speak with police officers later that same day. Karen provided a detailed account of the events. She explained that they were not alone on the beach. A friend from work, Peter, joined them shortly after they arrived at Cocoa Beach. The three of them spent most of the day together, and at the end of the day, they drove back to Orlando in two separate cars. Peter drove his own car while Karen followed him closely behind. After passing the toll booth, Peter drove ahead and quickly vanished from view. Soon after, Karen's car began to vibrate. Her husband insisted they stop immediately to check the car's condition. Karen got out of the driver's seat and opened the hood. Suddenly, she heard the screech of brakes as a stranger's car pulled up near theirs. Just seconds later, gunfire erupted. In that moment, Karen crouched down to hide under the open hood. She overheard the attackers, dressed in black and white, demanding her husband's wallet. Then, several loud shots rang out, and the criminals fled the scene. She noticed that the robbers didn't take the wallet, but she couldn't see their faces. The police arrived quickly and began investigating the scene, exploring various possibilities. Some unusual aspects caught their attention, raising doubts about Karen's statement. First, no one reported seeing a car marked Bad Boy. Second, it seemed odd that the robbers, who were after a wallet for money, would leave abruptly and forget their loot after committing murder. Third, they overlooked the woman and didn't check why the car's hood was open. Finally, it was odd that John, a mechanic, didn't check under the hood himself, while the one checking the car was Karen, who didn't know much about cars. The police did not charge Karen with fraud. Instead, they chose to gather more details about the case. The police quickly found some interesting information, specifically a report from 3 months earlier in Orlando. It turned out that an assault had occurred at Karen's home. According to the couple's previous statements, at around 9 p.m., Karen heard a noise in their backyard. She told her husband about it and asked him to check it out. When John went outside, he encountered 2 masked men. The neighbor quickly left the house when he heard the noise, and the porch light suddenly turned on, scaring the attackers, so they ran away. John returned home and told his wife what had happened, and she called the rescue service. John was not seriously injured, but he had a lot of bruises. John had no valuable information that could help catch the criminals, since he could not see their faces. After a brief and unsuccessful search, John's family's case was declared unsolved. John believed that he had interrupted the robbers, leading to their attack on his home. However, things now seemed more serious. He may have inadvertently made enemies, and they had come back to destroy him. This also explained why they did not take his wallet. Their goal was never to steal, but to kill him. The police started investigating all the people that John might have had conflicts with recently. John ran a successful business, raising the question of whether competitors could resort to extreme actions. Most of John's friends and acquaintances were unaware of any conflicts. John was known to be a kind and non-confrontational person, never speaking about any unpleasant situations that might cause resentment towards him. Everyone agreed that he was always willing to help others. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that John's kind nature may have contributed to the tragedy. Police discovered that shortly before the attack, a stranger had appeared in John's backyard. He was identified as Peter, a friend of Karen's who had recently gone on vacation with their family John. Peter's apartment had been broken into, forcing him to seek temporary housing. Karen convinced John to allow Peter to stay in her home for a while to support him during this difficult time. Peter is an attractive young man with blonde hair and blue eyes. After new discoveries in the investigation, there is growing suspicion that Karen has feelings for Peter, and that Peter is likely the father of the child. It is possible that the couple planned to eliminate John in order to benefit financially from their relationship. Peter, who had a close relationship with Karen, became a suspect in the murder investigation. He was brought to the police station for questioning. During the interview, Peter's account matched what Karen had said. He confirmed that he had gone to Cocoa Beach with Karen's family and spent time there with them, drinking beer and smoking marijuana. That evening, he drove away after passing through a checkpoint, not waiting for Karen's family because he was on his way home to Port St. Lucie. Overall, his story was consistent with Karen's account. He provided detailed information about his background to counter any claims about an affair with Karen. At that moment, it became clear that Karen had lied. She had claimed that Peter was an assistant producer at a TV channel where she worked, but that was false. In reality, Peter did not have a steady job. He had dropped out of school and occasionally did part-time work like mowing lawns. This allowed him to make enough money to get by, but he was not involved in any television work. Police learned from Peter's friends that Karen had been having an affair with Peter, which began a few months before he moved into John's house. During this time, Peter often bragged about his relationship with a married woman and often shared the story of how they met. It was later revealed that Karen had used business trips as an excuse to spend time with Peter. At the time, Karen was 29 and Peter was 18. While Karen kept the relationship a secret, she often visited him in the city, where they enjoyed days together and spent John's money. They met by chance while driving on the highway. The Karen caught his attention with her handcuff keychain hanging from her rearview mirror. When they stopped at a traffic light, he happily stuck his hands out the window as if they were handcuffed. To his surprise, she smiled back and they began flirting. After their first meeting, they spent the night together on the beach. His friends noticed that Peter was very fond of Karen. He even talked seriously about marrying her and was convinced that she might be pregnant with his child. The couple had a clear motive for killing John. However, at this stage of the investigation, there was no concrete evidence to confirm their involvement. The first step was to locate the murder weapon. A .22 caliber pistol was found at the crime scene. Police are looking for witnesses who may know about Peter and Karen's weapons. They interviewed one of the Karen's ex-husbands, who revealed that Peter was not Karen's only sexual partner. She often meets with her ex in various hotels. In November 1993, she approached him with an unusual request to borrow a .22 caliber pistol for self-defense, claiming she felt threatened after two strangers attacked John. He believed her and provided her with the weapon, which raised suspicions. It is necessary to locate the pistol and conduct ballistics testing to determine whether John was shot with this gun. When the police asked Karen's ex-husband about the weapon, he reported that she had not yet returned it. This raised the police's suspicions about Karen's involvement in her husband's death. As they investigated her background, they discovered that she was on probation at the time. In the 1980s, Karen had been convicted of credit card forgery and large-scale theft. Because of her probation status, she was not allowed to possess the weapon given to her by her ex-husband. Consequently, just 8 days after John's death, Karen was arrested for violating her probation, which meant she would remain in custody until the investigation was finished. Police quickly received crucial evidence just 2 days after the arrest. They interviewed Louis Aragon, Karen's half-brother. Louis had a criminal history. In the summer of 1993, Karen approached him with a proposition. her husband had a $500,000 life insurance policy, and Karen wanted him to help eliminate John. In exchange, she promised him a large payout. However, despite the tempting offer, Lewis refused to participate in the murder. In November, Peter and Karen planned to brutally beat John in their yard over a money dispute. Fortunately, a neighbor intervened in time and scared the attackers away, which angered Karen, who had begun to plan how to get rid of her troublesome husband. Key to the investigation was the testimony of her half-brother, Lewis. He revealed that Karen had approached him just days after the first attack and tried to convince him to participate in a second murder, but he had refused. Peter, however, was willing to do anything for Karen. As Thanksgiving approached in 1993, Karen convinced her husband to allow Peter to live with them. The police needed to verify the truthfulness of their new witness. They started by reviewing the couple's insurance policies. They discovered that Karen had taken out a life insurance policy on her husband for $250,000, which was stored in his safe. Over time, she acquired several additional policies, totaling around $500,000, a significant sum at that time. It appeared that her greed led her to eliminate her husband in order to collect the insurance payouts. Karen was determined to receive the money. In the days following John's death, she contacted various insurance companies, and some had already issued her compensation by the time of the investigation. However, the largest payments were on hold, prompting Karen to visit multiple insurance companies to demand her money. Meanwhile, on March 28, 1994, Peter was arrested as well. Both were charged with John Newell's murder. The prosecutor's office alleges that from the beginning, Karen began her relationship with John with the intention of receiving his insurance money. After getting married, she quickly took out a $250,000 life insurance policy and continued to purchase smaller policies. However, she did not directly participate in any crimes. Instead, she manipulated Peter and convinced him that they would marry and have a child together, portraying her husband, John, as an obstacle to their future. After the murder, a pregnancy test was conducted and it was found that she was not pregnant. She had an IUD, preventing any possibility of pregnancy at the time. Karen was fully aware of this. It was clear that her claim of being pregnant was simply a manipulation tactic to control the men around her. Given her deceitful nature, the prosecutor's office was aiming for the death penalty. And Peter was also facing the death penalty. So it was easy to get a confession by offering a deal. The plea agreement included cross-examination, during which Peter quickly admitted to having an affair with Karen. He claimed that they had been intimate at every meeting. She had won his heart. Peter revealed that it was Karen who had suggested attacking John in his apartment. When that plan failed, Karen began planning a more elaborate crime. As soon as Peter got out of the car, he pointed a gun at John's head and fired 3 more bullets into John's chest. Peter then dumped the gun in a lake several miles from the crime scene. Divers were able to recover the gun, and ballistics tests confirmed that it was the same gun that had shot John Newell. Additionally, the gun's serial number matched the serial number registered to Karen's ex-husband. In exchange for this crucial information, Peter was offered a plea deal for second-degree murder instead of first-degree murder. During the preliminary hearing, it was clear that Karen's lawyers were determined to fight hard. They tried to blame Peter, arguing that he was the mastermind behind the crime, motivated by jealousy over. Karen was portrayed as an innocent victim caught in the love triangle. If Karen was not involved in planning the murder, then how did Peter get the gun that her ex-husband owned? She never gave a satisfactory explanation for this. In addition, Peter and Karen's ex-husband did not know each other. The ex-husband even confirmed that Karen asked him for a gun. On September 5, 1994, Peter was sentenced to a long prison term with the possibility of parole, and he was released in early January 2010. And Karen Newell was sentenced to life in prison. She complained that it was unfair that Peter, who pulled the trigger, received a lighter sentence than she. Hi everyone, thanks for returning. Let's unravel another perplexing mystery. The case of Yingying Zhang. Yingying Zhang was a student from China who came to the USA after being invited by the University of Illinois. She and her fiancé from China were planning a wedding. Sadly, she never got the chance to wear her wedding dress, as she was killed just 6 weeks after her arrival in the USA. Born on December 21, 1990, Yingying was a Chinese ecology student who graduated from Beijing University with a master's degree in environmental engineering. Yingying is a smart and cheerful person. In April 2017, 26-year-old Yingying traveled to Champaign, Illinois in the USA, invited by the University of Illinois to study for a year in the plant-growing department of natural resources. She intended to pursue graduate studies afterward. In China, Yingying met her fiancé, Alenka. They were classmates and top students, having dated for several years. The couple planned to marry once she returned home. On June 9, 2017, Yingying was leaving school to meet a real estate agent to sign a lease. At 1:39 p.m., she texted the agent to confirm that she would arrive around 2:10 p.m. This was the last text she sent, and she never arrived. At 2:40 p.m., the real estate agent texted her to ask where she was, but received no response. The agent eventually left to meet another client. As hours went by and Yingying did not return, her friends became increasingly worried. She was supposed to return to campus after signing the contract, as she had no other plans for the day. Her friends repeatedly called and messaged her, but she did not reply. Even Alenka could not contact her. This situation was very alarming. In the evening, Yingying still had not returned. Too worried, Yingying's friends contacted the police and reported her missing. At first, the police thought she might be somewhere with her friends. However, after questioning all of her friends and finding no new information, along with no activity recorded on her bank cards or phone, they began a search. Her phone was turned off at 2:28 p.m. on the day she went missing and was never turned back on. The police searched the university campus, but no one saw Yingying. A $10,000 reward was offered for information about Yingying's location. After discovering she was missing, her parents and Alenka traveled to Illinois and raised the reward to $50,000 for any information that could lead to her return. Both her parents and Alenka joined the search efforts and committed to staying until they found she. The FBI joined the investigation. They tracked her phone, which had been detected at a bus stop close to the campus. Yingying did not have a car and relied on public transportation, particularly buses. CCTV footage showed Yingying boarding a bus at 1:35 p.m. She was supposed to transfer to another bus at 1:52 p.m. but missed it. Cameras then captured her walking to the next bus stop. While she was waiting, a black four-door Saturn Astra drove by, circled back, and stopped near her at around 2:03 p.m. After a brief conversation with the driver, Yingying got into the car and left. This was the last time she was seen on surveillance cameras. The driver was the last person known to have seen her, but the license plate number was not shown on the footage. The FBI needs to determine who was driving the car. They found 18 black four-door Saturn Astras registered in the area. One notable feature of the car, as seen in surveillance footage, was the cracked rims. After examining all 18 cars, they identified one that matched the description and also had the same sunroof. The car belonged to 28-year-old Brent Christensen. Brent grew up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and married his high school sweetheart Michelle Zortman in 2011. 2 years later, the couple moved to Champaign, Illinois, where he entered graduate school at the University of Illinois and worked as a teaching assistant. He left graduate school in 2016. Brent was considered a family man and had no criminal record. When FBI agents asked Brent about his whereabouts, he couldn't remember, mentioning he might have been sleeping at home or playing video games. His wife, Michelle, who he said he had an open relationship with, was away with another man. Brent allowed the agents to search his apartment and car. They discovered that a section of the car's interior, near the front passenger door, had been cleaned thoroughly while the rest of the car was still dirty. This was odd because cars are usually cleaned completely unless there is a specific reason for cleaning only part of it. A quick inspection of the apartment did not reveal any clues, so the agents took Brent to the police station for more questioning. At first, Brent denied knowing anything or being involved in her situation. However, when shown surveillance footage, he admitted that he had been passing by and seen a girl who looked very upset. He said that he stopped to help her and she said she was late for a meeting, so he offered her a ride, which she accepted. He claimed that after suddenly taking a wrong turn a few blocks later, Enying became frightened and tried to open the locked front passenger door. He then stopped to let her out. After she escaped from the car, he never saw her again. When the police and Agent Igor asked him for a more detailed description of Enying, but he had difficulty distinguishing people of Asian descent. As a result, he became a suspect. There was only circumstantial evidence against him, not enough to make an arrest, so the police had to release Brent. However, they decided to follow him, monitor his activities, and gather more evidence of his possible involvement in Enying's disappearance. They realized that Brand was the person they needed to investigate. The FBI seized his phone, computer, camera, and other digital devices for analysis. They soon discovered that Brent was hiding important information. In March 2017, he visited a psychologist and revealed during his sessions that he was obsessed with thoughts of murder and fascinated by serial killers. He claimed that he had learned how to kill without leaving any evidence to avoid detection. Brent also confided in the psychologist that his life was falling apart. He had started drinking regularly and his wife Michelle, who was having an affair, had asked him for a divorce. Brent did not want to end the marriage. It was also revealed that Brent had met a woman named Gray Tora on a dating website. They began dating and met at his home. They agreed that Brent would take the dominant role in their relationship while Tora would be submissive. Brent even introduced Tora to his wife, who knew about their open relationship and that Tora was also seeing other men for intimate encounters. Police later discovered that his computer search history included terms like kidnapping, hygiene products, and how to track an iPhone. It appeared that he was searching for information on how to kidnap someone, disable phone tracking, clean up blood, and track a girl. However, this information was not enough to make an arrest. More evidence or a confession was needed from him. The FBI agent asked Tora, Brent's new girlfriend, to assist in the investigation, and she agreed to cooperate with the wiretap. On June 29, Brent attended a memorial event for the missing Enying girl, where her family desperately begged for her return. During the event, Brent drank, smiled, and even leaned in to sing softly to Dash. Afterwards, he used the Notes app on his phone to write, "It's me. She's number 13. She's gone forever," and he drew the number 13 on his hand. This made Tora shiver. Tora felt uncomfortable listening to Brent's story, but he continued, seemingly trying to impress her. Brent had no idea that she was cooperating with the FBI and recording everything he said. Meanwhile, a drunken Brent revealed the grisly details of Enying's final moments, smiling as he spoke. He took off Enying's clothes and began doing various things to her. She endured everything. He tried to strangle her for 10 minutes but then let her go. She was still breathing, and he was shocked to learn that she was still alive. She fought harder than anyone he had ever met. She was not the only person he had murdered. Now, there were 13 victims. Brent told Tora that he first committed this crime when he was 19 years old. He dragged a corpse into the bathroom of his apartment and hit her over the head with a baseball bat. He then stabbed her in the neck and decapitated her. In the recording, he compared himself to his idol, Ted Bundy, and bragged that he had more victims than Jeffrey Dahmer and John Gacy. He boasted that he had attracted national attention. These recordings became crucial evidence against him. Brent was arrested the next day. His apartment was thoroughly searched with luminol, revealing a bloody handprint on the wall next to Brent's bed and in the bathroom. There was also blood on the passenger door of his car. A large bloodstain was found on his mattress, and a cadaver dog detected the scent of human remains in the bathroom. DNA from Ying Ying's toothbrush was found on a baseball bat, mattress, carpet, and in the bathroom. Brent's GPS data confirmed that he was present at the crime scene at the time of the incident. Additionally, receipts for trash bags and cleaning products were found in his home, along with a large gym bag, likely used to discreetly transport the remains. That morning at 7:45 a.m., he bought a large bottle of cheap rum from a liquor store. When he got home, he drank heavily, then drove around looking for victims while intoxicated. After a few hours, he spotted a student from the university, Emily Hogan, walking to a bus stop near the campus. He approached her and identified himself as an undercover police officer and asked her to get into his car for questioning. She refused and ran away. She later identified him and posted a warning on Facebook to warn others about the fake police in the area, which happened after the disappearance. After Emily rejected him, Brent sought out another victim and met a girl. He pretended to be a police officer and offered her a ride in his car. She believed him because he had a police badge, had a police radio, and drove a police car, so she got in. Once in the car, he drove home, confiscated her phone, and turned it off. Brent then tied her hands, took her to his apartment, raped and murdered her, and then dismembered her body. He bought cleaning supplies and attempted to clean both the house and the car, but investigators later discovered traces of blood hidden under the carpet and behind the baseboards. Brent claims the idea was spontaneous and unplanned. However, his computer search history suggests otherwise, suggesting he was prepared for it. Brent is charged with kidnapping, murder, and making false statements to a federal agent, and faces the death penalty. His trial began in June 2019. His lawyer argued that Brent had a difficult childhood, with his mother being an alcoholic and him not socializing with his siblings and lacking friends. During that time, he often contemplated ending his life and struggled with mental health issues, sleep problems, and substance abuse, which led him to seek help. His lawyer noted that Brent was not in a good mental state and was plagued by dark thoughts, especially after his wife mentioned divorce. This led to a downward spiral for him. At that moment, Brent was in the courtroom, wiping away tears. The attorney admitted Brent was guilty but asked the jury to give him a lenient sentence. During the trial, Brent's wife, Michelle, reported seeing a large gym bag and noted that Brent left with it on June 12. She said that there was no foul odor and that he easily threw the bag over his shoulder, leading her to believe that it could not have contained a body. It must have contained something light. However, she also acknowledged that the bag was large enough to hold a person and acknowledged that her husband could lift the weight of a girl. Michelle noticed new cleaning products in the house and stains on the carpet. Brent explained that he had a nosebleed, which caused the stains. So he purchased a cleaning product to try to clean the carpet. Despite the large stain, Michelle didn't find this suspicious. Calls from prison were recorded. During one call, Michelle told Brent that Tora had set him up. In court, Brent Christensen confessed to everything but didn't disclose the location of the bodies. On July 18, 2019, after 2 hours of deliberation, the jury found Brent guilty on all charges, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Later, Michelle relocated to another state and changed her last name to begin a new life. After the trial, Tora sought psychological help due to the traumatic experiences she had from hearing Brent's actions. A suicide note was discovered in Brent's cell, suggesting that he may have been planning to end his life or seek attention. He was then placed in solitary confinement and closely monitored. Although Brent claimed to have a 13th victim, no evidence of the existence of additional victims was ever found. He denied these allegations in court. The FBI analyzed 19 unsolved missing persons cases in Illinois and Wisconsin and submitted Brent's DNA for comparison, but no matches were found. It appears that Brent was just bragging to Tora and made up the story. Inying's family was not satisfied with the verdict. They felt that the killer deserved the death penalty. After learning that their daughter had been brutally murdered, all the parents wanted was to give Inying a proper burial. They were heartbroken to discover that their daughter's body would likely never be found. In their grief, they begged Brent to reveal the location of their daughter's remains. He told his lawyer that he had dismembered her body, put the pieces in 3 separate trash bags, and thrown them into a dumpster at his apartment complex. He also claimed that her phone, textbooks, and backpack were thrown into another dumpster, which was likely taken to a landfill. Police discovered that the trash at his apartment had been emptied 3 days after she went missing and the trash had been taken to a landfill. There, the trash had been compacted multiple times, mixed with other waste and scattered over a wide area, making it nearly impossible to find her remains. The only consolation for the family is that Brent will serve his sentence without parole, ensuring he cannot commit any more crimes. Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Jennifer Levin. On August 26, 1986, around 6:15 a.m., a woman was cycling through Central Park when she spotted something in the grass that looked like a human body. As she got closer, she realized it was a girl's body and, in a panic, she ran to the nearest public phone to call 911. After a few minutes, the police were on the scene, but it was too late to save the girl. The sight of her lifeless body shocked everyone present. The girl's neck showed signs of strangulation, and her face was badly scratched. The police suspected a sexual motive behind the crime. The victim's identity was quickly established because she had an ID on her. She was Jennifer Levin, just 18 years old. Investigations into Jennifer's background revealed that she was both enterprising and humorous. Her parents had divorced when she was 5, and before starting school, she moved to Soho to live with her father, a renowned real estate agent. Although Jennifer was supposed to attend the high school in Manhattan, her father chose to send her to a prestigious private school instead. Jennifer is an excellent and intelligent student, well regarded by her classmates and teachers. Over time, she began to participate in vibrant activities at school and made friends with children whose parents were as wealthy as hers. She easily passed the advanced placement programs, designed to prepare students for prestigious universities like Yale and Harvard. Gradually, she has made new friends at private schools in New York and was invited to parties, expanding her social circle. Although Jennifer's friends lived scattered throughout the city, they all gathered in one atmospheric spot for parties. It was here that Jennifer met her first love, a guy named Dorian. However, their relationship ended quickly, so she soon began seeing another young man named Robert Chambers. He claimed to be the son of wealthy parents with their own country club. It wasn't until a year after their first meeting that they started dating. On August 25, 1986, Jennifer started university. However, her excitement was short-lived. By the morning of August 26, she was discovered lifeless in Central Park. What really happened to Jennifer there? Was she a random victim or did someone deliberately target her? As investigators considered the possibility that the incident was sexually motivated, they speculated that Jennifer may have been involved in prostitution. This could explain why she was in such a risky location at night. However, she comes from a rich family and she doesn't need the money, so she wouldn't do that. Also, her relatives denied this. During this time, crime in New York has increased. Among the thousands of murders that take place each year, Jennifer's case stands out and attracts great public attention. The police faced immense pressure because she belonged to a well-respected, wealthy family. Detectives initially suspected a maniac was responsible. At first, it appeared that this was a case of rape, but experienced detectives noticed clues suggesting a staged crime. The body appeared to be in an unusual position, as if caused by sexual violence. However, there were inconsistencies, such as underwear being missing but later found 100 meters away. The detective's suspicions were quickly validated. Forensic analysis found no male DNA, indicating that rape hadn't occurred. The case drew intense media attention, leading to journalists swarming the park. Details of the case were leaked to the media and detectives' theories immediately made headlines. This information is often distorted and comes with falsehoods and rumors. The police successfully kept the victim's name confidential long enough to avoid disrupting the investigation. When Jennifer's mother learned of the incident, she hurried to Central Park and was confronted with her worst fear: her daughter had died. During that tragic moment, reporters surrounded she and continuously asked her questions. Soon after, friends and other family members of Jennifer arrived. And Jennifer's father informed her classmates about the tragedy. Jennifer's family and friends provided the police with crucial information to aid the investigation. It was discovered that the night before her murder, Jennifer planned to spend time with two friends. Her father had given her a diary where she noted her upcoming plans, helping to trace the incident leading to the brutal murder. The primary suspect was Jennifer's ex-boyfriend, Dorian, whom she had recently broken up with. He is believed to have held a grudge against her, which may have been the motive for the murder. It was revealed that he had met Jennifer at a Mexican restaurant the evening before the crime. At that time, there were no social networks, mobile phones, or computers to enable rapid information exchange. Detectives gathered information very slowly. They learned that starting at 2:30 a.m., Jennifer was at a bar with the boyfriends of two friends. Around 3:45, one friend left, and shortly after, the other went home. Just before this, Robert arrived at the bar. Jennifer started paying attention to him, and they stayed together until the party ended. Robert was the last person to see her alive. Detectives went to question Robert, who was a 19-year-old living near Central Park. They immediately noticed scratches on his face, and this seemed suspicious. He claimed a cat had caused, but no one believed him. When told that his girlfriend, Jennifer, was dead, he seemed shocked and genuinely worried. He cooperated with the investigation and began answering questions. Robert met Jennifer at the bar party around 3 a.m. They talked about her going to university. As the party was winding down and people started leaving, he and she stayed until around 4 a.m. They then left the bar, said goodbye, and headed home separately. Robert claimed he didn't know what happened afterward and denied involvement in Jennifer's death. She was killed between 4 o'clock and 6 a.m., and a forensic expert later confirmed her death likely occurred around 5:30. Investigators suspect Robert because he was the last person Jennifer was with. And the scratches on his face suggested a struggle. As a result, Robert became the primary suspect. Detectives tried to catch Robert in a lie, but he kept repeating his story like it was rehearsed. The interrogation lasted nearly 12 hours until Robert made a slip and slightly altered his account. This helped investigators get the necessary information they were looking for. They succeeded in getting Robert to confess, which happened under the watchful media presence, with reporters listening from the next room. Less than 24 hours after Jennifer Levin's body was found, Robert Chambers confessed to her manslaughter. According to Robert, he took a walk with Jennifer that night in Central Park. However, during the walk, she attacked him and attempted to have sex without his consent. She tied his hands with her underwear. The girl was very passionate and liked to experiment. Then, she scratched him and grabbed his genitals, causing him to scream and ask her to stop. Robert claims that she only increased the pressure instead of stopping. This story seemed so unbelievable that it made the detectives laugh and also brought shocked reactions from journalists. Robert says he was forced to defend himself due to Jennifer's aggressive actions. He managed to free his hands and, attempting to push her away, hit her with great force unintentionally. She hit a tree, then she fell down and died. He kept calling her to wake up, but she showed no response or signs of life. Not wanting to touch her, he sat next to a crowbar and waited, hoping she would wake up, but she never did. Eventually, he left the scene and observed from a distance as the police arrived. Robert insisted he was not guilty. He claimed he acted in self-defense against Jennifer's aggression. He expressed that he had no intention to harm her, as he really liked her. The investigators questioning why he didn't call for help. They believe if she had received medical help sooner, she might have survived. Robert explained that he feared being arrested. Following his interrogation, he was charged with murder. His family quickly hired a prominent lawyer, Jack Littman, who immediately petitioned the judge for Robert's release. The lawyer argued that Robert was innocent and that his actions were self-defense. The lawyer Jack portrayed Jennifer as a slut, who lured Robert into a trap and tried to rape him, and he was simply defending himself. Jack argued that Jennifer injured Roberts and she coincidentally died during his self-defense. This unusual defense strategy captured public attention. New York's media and information boards were filled with sensational headlines discussing the case. However, there were supporters of Jennifer as well. They viewed he as a decent, handsome, and successful. Robert was considered an intelligent and promising young man. He was a devout Irish Catholic and could not have deliberately committed such a heinous crime, as it would have destroyed his perfect life. Outwardly, he seems incapable of killing. Many people wondered why Robert, an attractive young man, would force a girl to have sex, since he was famous and had a lot of female attention. Robert's lawyer, Jack, tried his best to keep him from being held responsible for the murder. Jack even managed to get he featured on the cover of several magazines, such as New York Magazine. He appeared in a blue suit and red tie, resembling a fashion model rather than a dangerous criminal. Meanwhile, Robert actively smeared Jennifer's reputation, and this strategy was so effective that many people developed a biased view against his. Gradually, all media and the public sided with the defense. They believe that Jennifer is a woman with an evil personality. After meeting Robert, she went to Central Park to have sex with him and attacked him. However, a group of city volunteers specializing in crime prevention and many others strongly opposed it. They realized that Robert's lawyer was lying. They were furious with the lawyer. Besides, they also accused Robert of tarnishing Jennifer's reputation. Despite this, the public accepted the lawyer's lie, and Robert's supporters actively spread rumors that Jennifer was reckless and promiscuous. This made it possible for Robert to be released on bail. The lawyers then developed a more plausible version of incident, yet continued to defame Jennifer. They argued that Jennifer liked rough sex and accidentally died in the meantime, claiming the encounter began consensually and ended tragically by accident. This story gained unexpected support when Jennifer's father submitted her diary to the media. It was rumored to document her sexual relationships in detail. Later, the media has hyped it up as a sex diary, though it only described relationships with a few individuals, lacking any explicit or provocative content. Despite this, the diary entries were ruled inadmissible, which had already harmed Jennifer's reputation. The prosecutor's office had difficulty formulating a strategy and grasping the engine of this challenging case. Why did a boy from a wealthy family commit murder? A significant step in addressing this was analyzing Robert's past. Although only 19 years old, but he had committed over 3 burglaries, targeting wealthy homes in prestigious areas. His life was not as ideal as he portrayed. His mother not wealthy, she worked as a nurse in a private clinic and spent all her free time working to earn money. Without a source of income, Robert turned to crime and theft to maintain the image of a well-off young man and to support his drug addiction. He had been using drugs since he was 14 and had undergone several treatments, but none were successful. Robert struggled to graduate high school and later entered college, but he to be expelled due to substance issues and poor academic performance. He then attended Boston University, but faced similar problems. Many people knew he as an addict with a reputation for being dangerous. Jennifer had planned to break up with Roberts, and that might have been what led to the incident at the bar that night. One of Jennifer's friends reported seeing Roberts searching through her purse. He attempted to steal $40 and became angry when questioned by her. She was appalled at how low he had fallen. This occurred shortly before she was discovered dead in the park. The investigation confirmed that her expensive earrings had been stolen. True to the nature of someone with an addiction, he simply removed the jewelry after the murder and sold it to buy drugs. Nonetheless, there was a chance that the hearings might not consider his criminal past. A year after the murder, headlines about Jennifer's brutal murder in New York's Central Park were still in the newspapers. Finding 12 jurors who are not familiar with the case, are fair, and can render a correct verdict is a difficult task. They had to vet 486 people to find the required number of jurors. On the trial day, dozens of reporters were in the courtroom. Robert maintained his story about a genital attack and blamed Jennifer. He claiming he acted in self-defense and he just accidentally caused her death. However, experts have pointed out that Jennifer had marks on her neck, indicating that she had been in a violent and prolonged struggle. Numerous injuries indicated she fought against being strangled. The deep scratches on Robert's face were caused by her while fighting back. For a month, the case was highly contentious. Witnesses gave conflicting information, creating many doubts and questions, leading the jury to deliberate. Ultimately, they have fallen into a deadlock, and the possibility that Robert would escape punishment. On the 9th day, it was decided to annul the trial results and declare a mistrial. The prosecution's only hope was a plea deal. Robert was offered to plead guilty to manslaughter, and eventually, he accepted. On March 25, 1988, in court, Robert expressed remorse. He admitted guilt for a lesser crime and apologized to Jennifer's family and friends for the suffering he caused. Consequently, he received a lenient sentence of 15 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. Before the sentencing, Robert was released on bail, during which he held a farewell party. A girl at the party captured the event on a video camera. During the party, he got drunk, and he too confessed to the crime on camera, showing no remorse and even making jokes about the incident. Once in prison, Robert immediately became a troublemaker. He participated in assaults and repeatedly violated rules related to weapons and prohibited substances. As a result, his requests for parole were denied, and he served the entire 15-year sentence. Robert was released in 2003. Subsequently, Jennifer's family filed a civil lawsuit against Robert. They won the case, with the court ordering Robert to pay the family $25 million. However, it is unlikely they will receive this money because Robert lacks the funds. Robert remained silent about the incident that tragic night. However, in 2003, he spoke to the media for the first time. He seemed weighed down by guilt over killing a young student. He viewed this interview as a chance to unburden himself. He wished to speak out. He discussed the victim, Jennifer Levin, claiming he thought about her daily. The interview lasted 4 hours, with tension high throughout. Robert acknowledged that he could never make up for the pain he caused the Jennifer family. He realized that not only did he take their daughter away from her parents and friends, but he also created a web of lies. Despite this, he did not see himself as a monster because he felt remorse. Robert believed that if he were truly a monster, he would feel nothing. He admitted he was foolish and made the biggest mistake of his life. He recognized that stupidity often accompanied his actions. Although he was a criminal, but Robert did not seek forgiveness from the public because he believed it was impossible. However, he wanted to apologize and find a way to back up his words. For the past 15 years, Robert has been imprisoned, he believing this has atoned for his guilt. He admitted he was genuinely afraid, partly because he had to speak to the media. Nevertheless, he chose to speak because he felt it was his duty. After Robert was released from prison, he really wanted to make up for his mistakes. However, after missing out on major social changes during his incarceration, he had a hard time starting over. His lack of understanding about responsibility had contributed to the tragic death of Jennifer, a young woman. In an interview, he admitted that responsibility is now a key focus in his life. Hello, crime enthusiasts, are you ready for another chilling investigation? The case of Amy Fisher. Amy Fisher was born on August 21, 1974, in New York, USA. She is the only child in her family. Amy has a rather shy and modest personality. Amy often feels lonely. Although her parents provided her with everything she wanted, because they worked long hours and had little time for her. Therefore, she formed a close relationship with her grandmother and aunt. Her father was strict and harsh, often punishing both his wife and daughter for any mistakes, which made Amy afraid of him. There were many arguments between her parents, and each time, Amy hoped they would lead to divorce. However, her father was a skillful manipulator who controlled her mother, making her too afraid to leave the marriage. At a young age, Amy suffered a traumatic experience when she was raped by a family friend when she was just 6 years old. She kept this abuse a secret. When she was 13, Amy was raped again, this time by a worker hired to fix her family's house. And once again, she chose not to speak about it. These experiences left her with deep psychological scars. Despite this trauma, Amy tried to lead a normal teenage life. She had a close group of friends and a beloved dog that she spent time with every day. During this time, she dreamed of going to college to become a fashion designer. In February 1991, after an argument over the phone with her mother about spending the night at a friend's house, Amy ran away from home. During the argument, her father took the phone and warned her that if she came home late, he would punish her. This caused Amy to not return home, and she spent several days sleeping at various friends' houses and at her aunt and grandmother's. She was afraid to return because of her father's threats. Meanwhile, her father reported her missing to the police, saying that she was unstable and uncontrollable. That same year, the girl discovered she was pregnant, which shocked both her and her boyfriend. Fortunately, her aunt helped her arrange an abortion without her parents finding out. In May, when she left the garage, she accidentally broke the side mirror of her car. She feared that her father would punish her for this incident. She had previously taken her car to a repair shop to fix a similar problem, where a skilled mechanic quickly fixed the car without her father noticing. This time, she returned to the shop alone and met a man named Joey Buttafogo. This meeting was the fate of her life. Joey was married to Mary Jo, the oldest of 5 sisters from a Catholic family in a Long Island suburb. They met in 1971 while both were in high school and taking summer courses. Joey was charming and funny, but he had lost his mother when he was 11, which left him deeply affected during his teenage years. Mary provided him with support during this difficult time. Their relationship developed quickly, and they married in 1977, purchasing a house next to his family's auto repair shop. Mary's lifestyle changed dramatically when she became pregnant. Mary began to accept a more responsible adult life. And she noticed that Joey had not changed. While she was at home, Joey continued to go to parties as usual. Mary did not confront him about this, hoping that he would eventually change. However, this situation made her frustrated because of Joey's needs and desires. He became addicted to drugs, went to work early and came home late, sometimes disappearing for days. Each time he returned, he had a convincing excuse, because he was very good at lying. Mary endured this situation for a long time, rarely seeing her husband, and her patience was exhausted. She began to talk about divorce more often, but Joey always tried to ease her worries. And then she went on to get pregnant again. After giving birth to her daughter Jessica, she tried her best to maintain the appearance of an ideal family. Meanwhile, Joey continued his reckless behavior. This made Mary feel sad and made her see herself as a failure. As a result, she began to experience frequent panic attacks. Mary began seeing a therapist who helped her control her anxiety. However, this did not solve the problem of her uncontrollable husband. Faced with this reality, Mary had no choice but to take prescription medication, raise her child, and hope for a future where Joey would change. Mary gradually realized that they needed to move back to their old neighborhood on Long Island, as Joey's parties and friends were having a negative effect on him. She convinced Joey that they needed to move. The couple planned to buy a new house. Much to Mary's surprise, her husband quickly found a cash buyer for their current home, making it seem like a great opportunity. They could move immediately, and Mary expected to receive the money to buy a new house. However, on the day they were due to leave, Joey admitted to a serious problem. He revealed that he had mortgaged their property and given all the money to his drug dealer. It turned out that he was heavily in debt due to his drug use and had to mortgage the house just to pay off the debt. This news was quite distressing. A family with 2 children found themselves homeless and broke. Fortunately, Joey's father stepped in to help by giving them the money they needed for a down payment on a new home in Massapequa, a suburb of Long Island. However, he had his own motives. He believed Joey was incapable of managing a business and feared he would lose the auto repair shop. As a result, Joey received the money, but he also lost his claim to the family business and became just an employee in his father's shop. Despite this, Mary remained supportive and forgave her husband. She enrolled him in a rehabilitation program, which ultimately helped him. In the end, they were able to find happiness together. The Mary never expected that another woman would enter their lives. In May 1991, Amy Fisher returned to the auto repair shop to fix her car, just like she had done the previous year. She was worried about her father finding out because she didn't have any money, so she needed to come up with a story. Joey agreed to help her with this. Joey agreed to help her with this. They decided he would say she brought the car in for routine maintenance, and that while she was there, someone had hit her car at night and broken the mirror. The plan worked. Amy's father believed the story, and Amy felt grateful to Joey for helping her avoid trouble with her dad. From that point on, Amy frequently brought her car to the shop for minor repairs, which she pretended were her fault, just to see Joey more often. Amy was much younger than Joey, with an age gap of almost 20 years. However, she often flirted with Joey. On July 2nd, she went to the auto repair shop again to install a sound system. Because her father could not take her home after leaving the car there for several hours. Then Joey offered to drive Amy home himself, and she agreed. When they arrived at her house, he asked if she could show him around, and she agreed. They had sex for the first time at her parents' house. After that experience, the girl began to consider Joey her boyfriend. They met again that night. Even though she was only 16 and he was 35, they began their relationship. Amy and Joey's relationship continued over the next few years. Amy would frequently visit Joey's auto repair shop, and they would meet at a motel and at her house. Joey seemed to be taking advantage of Amy's weaknesses. He knew about her troubled relationship with her father and realized how vulnerable she was. He began buying her expensive gifts and taking her out to dinner and on his boat. Amy was very fond of Joey, and their age difference did not bother her. Amy finally turned 17 on August 21, 1991. A month after her birthday, she approached Joey for financial help. By that time, Joey had lost his management position at the shop and could not give her the money she needed. Joey then suggested that she could make money by selling her body, and she agreed to become a call girl. Over time, Amy met other men, but her relationship with Joey continued. Their relationship was unhealthy, and it was clear that it would not end well. Just before the tragic events, Joey pressured her to cut ties with her aunt, one of the few supportive family members. Amy agreed and ended up without any support from her family. Amy urged Joey to leave his wife. However, Joey refused. Despite his relationship with Amy, Joey still loved Mary deeply and had no intention of leaving family. This revelation came as a significant shock to Amy. At the time, she decided to end all contact with him, but she struggled with her feelings and ultimately chose to stay in his life. During this time, Joey frequently expressed that his marriage was deteriorating. He mentioned having deep feelings for Amy and even mentioned wanting Mary dead. According to him, he had caught Mary cheating on him multiple times, and he described her behavior as unbearable, saying that she had tormented him throughout their marriage. Joey often made excuses for why he couldn't file for divorce, with the couple's children being the main reason. Amy believed him and felt sympathy for his situation. Over time, these lies began to influence Amy's thoughts, leading her to devise a murder plan. She intended for Mary to be shot, believing this would allow Joey to be free of his wife. Initially, Amy attempted to hire two of her classmates to carry out the murder, offering them $400 in sexual favors in return. However, her classmates eventually refused, causing her plan to fail. The situation changed dramatically when Amy started going to the gym and met the gym owner, Paul Meckley, a 30-year-old man. They began a romantic relationship. In addition, Amy regularly met 3 clients, providing them with intimate services. At this point, she decided to stop using the company's services and started seeing clients directly. She openly shared details of her life with Paul. Since he knew Joey well, Paul tried to convince Amy to end her relationship with Joey, who was married. When Joey finds out that Amy is dating someone else, he becomes anxious for fear of losing her. He tries to interfere with her new relationship. But all his efforts are unsuccessful. Meanwhile, Paul and Amy decide to get revenge on Joey. Their plan is to inform his wife, Mary, about Joey's affair. To carry out their plan, they hire a 21-year-old named Peter Gorgenti to drive Amy to Mary's house. They steal the license plate from a random car in town to use on Peter's car. On May 19, 1992, Amy went to school but did not intend to attend classes. Instead, she went straight to the nurse, saying she felt unwell, and was sent home. Peter was waiting for her in his car at the entrance. They switched the license plates and drove to the Mary family's house. At 11:30, Amy knocked on the door. At that moment, Mary was inside the house drawing by herself. When Mary opened the door, Amy asked her to step out onto the porch for an important conversation. Amy introduced herself using a fake name and told a story about Joey being in a relationship with her sister. However, Mary did not believe her. She thought her husband had stopped partying and had become a devoted family man. The Amy guest became very anxious. She felt frustrated by Mary's lack of trust. To prove her connection, she revealed a T-shirt with the logo of the auto repair shop where Joey worked. However, Mary still did not believe and rejected Amy's story. This led to a heated argument that lasted 15 minutes. The Amy tried every possible way to persuade the Mary that her husband was having an affair. Amy concealed important details such as her actual age, where she lived, and her relationship with the Joey, twisting the truth to fit her story. As a result, Amy's lies seemed even less credible. Eventually, the Mary turned away and headed for the door, asking the Amy to leave. It was clear that she viewed the girl's claims as fabrications and had no intention of listening further. In a fit of rage, Amy hit Mary in the head and accidentally shot her. The recoil of the gun knocked Amy to the ground, and Mary landed on top of Amy. She then pushed Mary away, quickly got up, and got into Peter's car. She later told Peter that the gun had gone off accidentally, claiming that she had only meant to scare Mary. After fleeing the scene, they dumped the gun and Mary's bloody clothes in a sewer near her house. She returned home and pretended that nothing had happened. A passerby heard a loud bang but did not see Amy. He found Mary lying unconscious in a pool of blood on the porch. He quickly ran to a neighbor's house for help and called an ambulance. Doctors arrived in time and discovered that the bullet had hit a vital artery and shattered her jaw. Mary had lost a significant amount of blood and was in critical condition. Thanks to the passerby's quick actions, she had a chance of survival. Doctors assessed her condition and thought she had a good chance of recovery and rushed her to the hospital. The bullet was lodged near her spine, making it impossible to remove. Mary was placed on life support overnight while undergoing surgery. Fortunately, she regained consciousness a few days later and was able to provide the police with a description of her attacker. Mary repeated Amy's story, but Amy had given a false address and name, rendering the information futile. However, there was one clue: a T-shirt with the logo of Joey's auto repair shop. The police approached Joey for information. He explained that he had distributed a large number of the T-shirts for promotional purposes. He also gave the police a photo of Amy, his mistress. Joey suspected her of being involved, which helped the police identify the attacker. On May 21st, Amy was arrested on the street near her home. She was then subjected to a 12-hour interrogation without her parents or an attorney present, a violation of the legal protections afforded to minors. Her parents had no idea what had happened. When they returned home that evening, they assumed Amy had simply run away again, so they were not concerned when she did not return home that night. The police did not inform them that their daughter had been arrested for attempted murder. When details of the case became public, journalists quickly became interested in Amy, a girl with a troubled life and crime. They reported that she had sold her body and had attacked a respectable married woman with a gun. This caused public outrage and reporters searched for any information they could find. A video emerged showing Amy with another client. Weeks after her arrest, Amy had not confessed to any of the crimes. She was held on $2 million bail. Her story attracted a lot of attention. Amy to post bail and spend time at home while awaiting trial. However, the media attention severely harmed her reputation. Amy claimed that the illegal activities she was involved in were a result of Joey's influence, as he pressured her into selling her body at a young age. This became the central argument that her lawyers used in their defense strategy. Joey denied having an affair with Amy, but evidence emerged in the form of 13 receipts from a motel where he met Amy, confirming their secret involvement. Several motel employees confirmed frequent visits. During the court proceedings, Amy spoke against him, providing evidence linking his handwriting to the relationship. However, Joey maintained that the accusations were fabricated. Even Mary sided with him, refuting Amy's. While waiting for her trial, Amy focused on preparing for it. She spent all her money on bail, leaving her unable to pay her lawyer, who agreed to defend her for free. There were rumors that she was having an affair with her lawyer, who seemed to have feelings for her and even sent her gifts. On the advice of her attorney, she accepted a plea deal with the prosecution. With the weapon and motive, it would be difficult to argue that the gun went off accidentally. On September 23, 1992, after turning 18, she confessed to the accidental killing. Amy stated that she was angry with Mary because she refused to listen. When Mary turned away, Amy hit her in the head twice with the gun. After the second strike, the gun accidentally went off, injuring Mary. Amy maintained that she did not intend to kill Mary. It was an accident that she deeply regretted. Journalists discovered that Amy was involved in a romantic relationship with the gym's owner, Paul. He sought to capitalize on the situation by attracting media attention. Paul even installed a hidden camera in his gym to secretly film a personal conversation with Amy. Paul admitted he enjoyed the media attention and was eager to appear in news stories, as they paid well. With the money from this exposure, Paul planned to buy a Ferrari. Once Amy realized that even Paul was exploiting her, she attempted to take her own life again. Subsequently, she was required to undergo treatment in a psychiatric clinic, where she stayed for several months. On December 2, Amy appeared in court. Mary felt the plea deal was unfair because it allowed Amy to be released after only 2 years and 9 months, a punishment that seemed inadequate given the severity of the crime. Mary, who survived the attack, suffered partial facial paralysis and hearing loss in her right ear due to the bullet lodged in her spine. The injury left her in constant pain and with vision problems. Doctors warned that if the bullet had moved, she could have been completely paralyzed or even killed. When Amy was given the opportunity to speak, she apologized and blamed Joey for everything. She claimed that he knew about her plan to shoot his wife from the beginning and even encouraged her. Although Amy wants to bring Joey to justice, there is no evidence linking him to the crime. Amy later admitted that she intended to kill Mary. Several witnesses confirmed that Amy had mentioned wanting to kill Mary. The investigation found that the gun was functioning properly and could not have been fired randomly, given the trajectory and force of the bullet. In addition, it was suspected that Amy and her accomplice Peter had taken steps to prepare for this trip, such as changing the license plate and purchasing weapons. This suggested that they were planning a targeted attack. During the trial, Amy's hopes of serving only 2 years and 9 months in prison were dashed. Instead, she pleaded guilty to first-degree assault with aggravated circumstances and received a 15-year sentence. Peter Guagenti, who drove her to Mary's house, was arrested and charged with being an accessory to the crime and was sentenced to 6 months in prison. Joey appeared on several television shows with his wife to prove his innocence. They even went on a small press tour and appeared on various channels across the country. During this time, the prosecutor's office began to receive many calls from people who believed that Joey should also face legal consequences because they thought he was indirectly involved in the incident. The police could no longer ignore the accusations against Joey. The following April, Joey Buttafogo was arrested and charged with sex with a minor. Joey reached a plea deal with the prosecutor and admitted his guilt. As a result, he served only 6 months in prison and paid a $5,000 fine. He claimed he had been wrongly convicted, portraying himself as the victim of a deceitful schoolgirl. After pleading guilty, he ended up serving only 4 months in prison before being released. In 1995, Joey was arrested again in Los Angeles for soliciting prostitution. He claimed he was innocent and that the incident was staged. As a result, he served the last 75 days of his sentence. During this time, Mary fell into a severe depression and took medication to cope with the pain. After the family moved to Los Angeles, she became an alcoholic but later went to rehab, which improved her life. Amy's time in prison was difficult. She complained that she was raped by prison guards multiple times. Amy wanted to be transferred to another facility, but the prison authorities refused. In 1999, after serving 7 years in prison, Amy was granted early parole. During a meeting with the parole board, she tearfully confessed that the attack on her lover's wife was entirely her idea. Realizing her wrongdoing led to her release. Meanwhile, Mary discovered that her husband had been cheating on her multiple times. Unable to bear her husband's constant infidelity, she filed for divorce in 2003 after 26 years of marriage. At the same time, Joey was arrested for attempted insurance fraud involving his car. He never learned from his mistakes. He remarried and continued to live an eccentric lifestyle. After the divorce, Mary had facial surgery that allowed her to smile normally and partially regain her hearing. During this time, her children were very supportive. In 2009, she published a book about her life story. For years, she harbored resentment toward Amy for shooting her. However, during her rehabilitation, Mary realized that it was time to let go of the past and stop punishing herself. This realization led her to forgive Amy. In 2010, Mary remarried and moved to California, where she became a grandmother and enjoyed a peaceful life. After her release from prison, Amy moved to Florida and wrote 2 books about her life. She sought fame and money, even creating a false identity. Amy began working as a webcam model and adult film actress, frequently appearing on talk shows to share her experiences. After marrying a former New York police officer and having 3 children, her marriage ended in divorce in 2015. Their eldest son stayed with his father, while Amy returned to Long Island with her 2 younger children and lived with her mother for a time. During this time, she worked as a stripper in a strip club but eventually quit. She continued to work as a webcam model. Her ex-husband did not support this lifestyle. He suggested that Amy buy a smaller house, preferably in a remote area where she could remain anonymous and find a regular job and live more modestly. However, she refused his offer.